TNA is the best wrestling in the whole world.
But can you believe it? Kurt Angle's in the Impact Zone. Olympic Slam! Olympic Slam by Angle and Samoa Joe!
Think this is funny? No. Why would you do this?
Hold to.
Get a life! Get a life!
That's Osama bin Laden! I didn't even know he was Al-Qaeda!
Death to ECW. Long live TNA.
I will be the guide that takes you to the labyrinth in your mind.
This is BS! This sucks! I've lost my objectivity and I don't give a damn!
Welcome everybody to You've Got to Be Kidding Me, episode number 53. We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. On this episode, we are talking about the month that is October 2006, leading up to Bound for Glory 2006. I am Garrett Kidney, and I am joined by the incomparable Liam Jones.
What's the incomparable mean? Without comparability?
Yes, if you were to line up everybody in the world, nobody compares to you.
It's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
I think it's true.
Well, I guess technically it doesn't need to be a positive.
That's true.
There's nothing stating that my comparisons are good.
Adolf Hitler is incomparable.
Except to you.
Wait a minute. There's me introducing you in a very nice way, and you immediately go to also you're Hitler.
Well, you know, you set them up and knock them out.
That's true. I brought it on myself when you think about it.
Is this relationship toxic?
I just bring all like lots of positivity, and then you're like, "Fuck you," kick you in the balls.
Yeah.
Mm.
Who could possibly know?
Is that not how most relationships work?
I think so.
Okay.
Just
I'm reassured then.
Different levels.
Just various layers of toxic positivity and negativity.
Yeah. And how they bounce back and forth from each other.
And if you have a relationship where one person brings 100% toxic positivity and another person brings 100% negative toxic, whatever I'm talking about, that balances out to zero. Toxic negativity, that was the word I was looking for. It balances out to an average of neutral, and everything's fine.
Yeah, which is what everyone wants from any interpersonal relationships. A neutral ground.
Just purely equal footing at all times. What is going on with you?
I'm a little sick, but other than that, not a lot. I started playing Lost Records Bloom and Rage.
I have no idea what that is.
It's by the people who made Life is Strange.
Oh, yeah, because there was, like, the two of them coming out at the same time, wasn't there? There was Life is Strange last year, which, you know, well, people seem to not like a lot. Not nobody seemed to like, but it seemed to go off the rails in the second half in particular, I heard. And then this one's coming out from the original team.
Yeah, and it's pretty good.
You a big Life is Strange boy?
I think Life is Strange is a really good game that, like, is so of its time that it can only work in that time.
Yeah.
I don't think it, like, ages at all, but for when it came out, and it's, like, weird, and they say hella a lot, it's, like, it's, like, just of its time.
There has been a kind of Twitter poster that has ruined the entire vibe of Life is Strange since, but at the time it was okay.
But it's, like, I think there's a lot of games that are like that. A lot of, like, early PS3 era games that are, like, that was just kind of the thing.
And there is a little bit of, like, I think Limbo, the indie game, is a very good game. It's a nice, pleasant game. But it is held up as, like, one of the best games ever made because it was released in a period where there weren't that many good indie games. And now there are a lot. And I think Life is Strange is a little bit the same in that it was released in a period where good narrative games with good writing were a little few and far between, and now they're not. So there's more competition.
I certainly think it's fun. And I think, yeah, I mean, I don't think any of the, like, sequel stuff has ever, like, gripped me, but the original Life is Strange is, like, very fun and, like, a standout of its era.
And so how's this new one feeling to you?
It's good. I like it so far. I like the character interactions, which is like what a game like that is entirely based on.
Yeah.
It's like sort of the sense of community built within it. I'm not crazy about like the photography motif.
I feel like there's a lot of games that have been going for photography. It's obviously like a post Pokemon Snap thing. And
Well, this is like it's like recordings. You make little recordings and then it edits it into a short film based on the quest line of like these are get 12 different bird shots of different birds, and then it will edit it into like a small like short film. And like the thing I like about it is like say it's like, oh, this is one area and you need to get 12 recordings in this area to make the short film. But there's actually like 20 options.
All right.
So like you don't have like it's not just the 12 that you'll find. There's more, and you can be like, oh, I like this one better, and you can take one out that you've got from a different place because it was less interesting.
And then that will change like the story.
It won't change the story, but it will change the end product of the short film you make.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and you're kind of like bouncing around. There's a big mystery, and I don't think the mystery is like obvious. And like that's good. So it's like, you know, like sometimes you get a mystery and you're like, whatever. But like, I guess again, like with Life is Strange originally, the mystery there wasn't like an obvious thing either.
Is this game like out?
Yeah, so it's a two-parter. You pay for one, you get both.
Okay.
But the first one is out, second one is out in like a month.
That's not bad. That's a decent wait time. So I feel like Telltale burned everybody with the like in-part release narrative games. Where you were like, oh, maybe some of them won't come. And then Telltale went out of business because they did far too much stuff. But yeah, a month between them is kind of a nice cadence.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're not waiting a super long amount of time. It's very pretty.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a fun little jaunt. Each episode, I think, is around like the 7-hour mark.
I do feel sorry for the team that is making Life is Strange. Because, I don't know, there was all those reports about the working conditions there and all that kind of stuff, which seemed terrible. And also, they just have to live in the shadow of that first game forever. And,
Yeah.
I don't know, it would be nice if they could make their own thing instead of having to dig up the old characters for the sake of presumably trying to sell some more copies of a game. You're like, hey, the old characters are back. But then you want to do those characters right, and then a whole bunch of bullshit gets in your way.
Yeah, I didn't play the sequel, so I don't know yet. But, I don't know, they did like a bunch of in-universe but not related stuff in the meantime. So we'll see how that develops.
I saw Mickey 17 the other day. It's like last week at this point.
And it was just like weird.
It's weird. It is weird. I can see why it's not quite divisive, but it has like I think a high 3s on Letterboxd, and I'm like, I get that, because there's a thing the movie is about, and then the second half, the movie is not really about that, and it goes in some weird and wacky places that I'm kind of into, because I like when sci-fi does like those big swings and wild reaches, and it's just crazy nonsense for the entire run of a 2-hour, 20-minute film. But there is a little part of me that's like, I do kind of wish the whole movie was about the whole cloning thing. And it's kind of not by the end of it. Like, that's thematically some stuff ties together, but that's more like a plot device than like what the narrative thread is about toward the end of the movie. But then it just goes into wild, wacky sci-fi shit, which I'm not too mad at.
Would you prefer they stuck to their guns on either side of it?
A little bit. But I can't blame somebody taking $100 million of Warner Brothers money and then blowing it on whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, that's what everyone should do.
Mark Ruffalo in that movie.
I'm not a fan in general.
I don't like what he's doing in that movie.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's doing Trump. That is quite transparently what
I didn't even know that he was in that movie.
Yeah, I didn't either. And then when he started talking, I'm like, oh, what is going on here? And then you're like, oh, he's just doing Trump. Okay. All right. Okay, fine.
That man loves his stupid little voice.
There's a film full of stupid little voices, because you have Robert Pattinson also doing a stupid little voice in the movie. So you do just gotta get Ed Hardy in there. Tom Hardy. Ed Hardy.
Yeah, Ed Hardy.
We'll talk about Ed Hardy later in the show with some Christian Cage t-shirts. But you gotta get Tom Hardy in there for the full trifecta of silly little voice.
They are the three goats of that shit.
I will say, whoever cut the trailer, I think cut a better trailer than the movie, because the trailer is like, oh, that's my shit, and then the movie is like, yeah, well, it's mostly my shit, and the shit stuff that's not my shit is at least, at least they did. It's
Something.
not boring. Yeah, it's not like they went in a boring direction. It's just like they kind of abandoned the good stuff about the movie and did something else. But yeah, it's worth seeing. It's completely flopped at the box office.
As it should.
Yes, there is nothing better than a director taking a big studio's money, blowing it on a passion project or some dopey thing they want to make, and it making no money whatsoever.
That's the ideal artistic world.
It's like when people were like, oh, Scorsese made Killers of a Flower Moon, and that was a giant flop and lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Sick. That's the best.
Good. That's what we want.
Taking Apple's money, making a fucking gigantic, dense 3-hour movie that no one wants to see, and then it losing hundreds of millions of dollars is the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
For the sake of the free listeners, we were at AEW Grand Slam last month.
We were, and it was good. It was a fun show.
You can hear our extended thoughts about that on Patreon. We talked about it more in the Lucha Underground episode we did last week or the week before last.
Merch. Get it out of the way at the start, because we never do.
We do have a reoccurring bit on the Patreon shows where we forget to mention merch until we are either 1 to 3 hours deep into a recording, in which we are then like, oh, by the way, guys, we have t-shirts. But we do have t-shirts. You can check out the link in the description where there you can go off. You can find our Styles Daniels Joe shirt, our Kevin Nash Graph shirt, and hopefully coming soon we'll have a new t-shirt as well coming up. Maybe not by the time this episode comes out, but shortly after. And also, you can buy posters. All the posters are going up. We have a Sick Angle and Joe poster for this month that's available there on the store as well. So yeah, merch. If you would like a 10% discount, that's there for Patreon supporters as well. If you look at the pinned post on Patreon, there's a link that takes you to the promo code that will give you 10% savings. And as we said before, you can do a little hack. You will actually, if you're buying a t-shirt, you can subscribe on the $1 tier on Patreon, and you'll get a code that will save you more than $1 on the shirt. So you can actually, you can technically rip us off. You're not actually ripping us off because we still come out with money either way. But shh.
Don't tell them that. Let them think they're getting a one-up.
You're meant to think you're stealing from us. That's the way business works. But yeah, link in the description. You can check out all our shirts, all our posters, buy some merch. Subscribe to the Patreon at patreon.com/gettingme or tnachat.com, where you can get many extended shows. I think I think we're over 150 pieces of exclusive audio there sitting on Patreon at this point. Series about New Japan Pro Wrestling, about Ring Cat King, about Lucha Underground, about Global Force Wrestling, about Wrestling Society X, about Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. We covered the 2010 Monday Night Wars. We covered Randy Savage's album. we covered the State of Play, State of Union, that whatever the fuck that Chris Rock.
Yeah, not the
called.
State of Play.
Yes, the Sony State of Play starring Chris Rock. We covered that. So all of that. We did a watch along for one of the WrestleManias. 2011, I think, was the one. No, 2010. That makes sense because that's the era we were watching. And also watch alongs for every pay-per-view in TNA history so far, and a bunch of the weekly pay-per-views. All of that sitting there. Patreon.com/gettingme, tnachat.com. My favorite moment from the watch along we did for this episode, Bound for Glory 2006, is when you were trying to do a 26 county of Ireland Sporkle quiz, and I insisted you go find a 32 county of Ireland Sporkle quiz. Because I do not respect your 26 county quiz. I only respect 32 county quizzes.
A political statement from Garrett 15 minutes in.
Also, my other favorite part of that is because we got so distracted with spelling and you being aghast at pronunciation, I did not, in fact, actually name all 6 northern counties while we were doing it.
You barely got like 12.
Because we spent half the time with you being like, what the fuck is leash?
Well, spell things correctly, and then this wouldn't be an issue, would it?
You saw the spelling of Donegal and you lost your mind.
It's insanity.
You just had to look at the word Fermanagh and you were like, what on earth is going on?
These aren't real places.
Patreon.com/gettingme, tnachat.com, where you can subscribe, support the show, and get a ton of extra content. There's so much there. If you haven't subscribed before, there is now a ton of stuff there. It really is like the best $5 you could ever spend.
Wow.
Ever.
That's our tagline?
Yeah, like if you got like, could you buy drugs for $5? I don't buy drugs.
You
But you
drugs
could
for
not buy $5
I
worth of
wouldn't want
drugs
to.
as good as this. That brings us to the news, starting with more follow-up from Kurt Angle being signed by TNA. On Sunday, after No Surrender, TNA President Dixie Carter responded to the overwhelming negative response from torch readers and, quote-unquote, informed wrestling fans to the signing of Kurt Angle.
Really, I'm gonna have to go deep for this one.
Yeah, Liam is sick, so this is like sick Dixie.
Am I shocked?
Yes, perfect.
Am I shocked by some of the negative responses? I'm more saddened by it for Kurt.
Carter told Ross Foreman on TNA's official website.
I know this has hurt him very much.
Carter tried to reassure fans that TNA had performed due diligence researching Kurt's current health situation. She said TNA was comfortable with the indications they received from Angle's doctors and medical staff that had evaluated Angle.
I have personally met with... I'm changing a lot. I've personally met with Kurt and his wife.
Carter said.
All past medical and pain medication issues have been addressed in depth and to my satisfaction. We have assembled a team of doctors around Kurt to monitor past injuries and to also oversee his health on an ongoing basis.
Dixie Carter also addressed when TNA began negotiating with Angle to come to the company. Carter said TNA contacted Angle as soon as he was released from his WWE contract.
Once I knew that Kurt would be available, we immediately wanted to talk to him and hopefully sign him,
she said. Carter added that the company would not sign a wrestler if the company felt the wrestler was in no condition to perform or a potentially dangerous influence on the locker room.
TNA would never sign a talent or allow a talent to be in a situation to harm themselves more than the risk of each of these guys take every time they step into the ring,
she said.
I truly believe that every TNA wrestler, referee, broadcaster, and front office employee knows that their health and their family comes first.
This is where we smash cut to Victory Road 2011.
I know.
She said TNA had already signed Angle to a contract when the MMA rumors circulated the week before TNA's No Surrender pay-per-view when the Angle announcement was made. Carter introduced news on a TNA drug and alcohol policy. She said the infrequent schedule and independent contractor status for its wrestlers precludes the company from instituting a comprehensive wellness policy similar to WWE's, but she claims the company has the right to perform random drug tests for its wrestlers. Citing TNA's private company status, Carter said she cannot disclose the full terms of the policy, but she said,
violations of the policy are spelled out, and a failure to comply or failure to test can result in mandatory drug counseling and treatment, suspension from work without pay, up to and including dismissal.
Carter said the earlier primetime slot on Spike TV was locked up prior to the Angle signing. She said Angle was on board with the company without even knowing about the new primetime clearance.
He wanted to make the leap because he knew the potential was there and he wanted to be part of making it happen,
she said.
That's how much he wants to be a part of TNA.
Carter said there's no doubt Impact would eventually move to 2 hours. Regarding Bill Goldberg, she said the company would be excited to have him on the roster, but he is pursuing other career goals.
An Angle Goldberg back-to-back would be crazy.
The Bald Man Alliance.
Bold Event Mafia.
Yes, that's what the stable would have been called. Ricochet would have joined eventually. So, there are two truths I think I have in mind here. Two things that are true at once. Kurt Angle was not in a good place in 2006. But also, I think a lot of the hand-wringing around Kurt jumping to TNA was defined by what was obviously a fundamental propaganda piece by WWE when they released him.
Yeah, he was clearly the victim of a complete hit job.
If you go back and listen to that No Surrender episode we did where we talked about the weird PR rollout where there was an interview with Angle on WWE.com where he was like, you guys, WWE is great, I love Vince, WWE is the best, everything's great, but I fucked up and I need to take some time for myself and it's all me and WWE's great and nothing's WWE's fault and it's all me. There's that weird PR rollout that defined where people thought Kurt was. That was obviously, as you said, this kind of PR hit job to absolve WWE of any responsibility of anything that might happen to Kurt and maybe what might happen when he leaves WWE. And that kind of framed how people saw him jumping to TNA as TNA is the vulture swooping in on this poor man in his low moment and putting him on TV even though he shouldn't be. When realistically, the bad guy there is just as much as anybody is WWE for doing the most bizarre rollout of a dude being fired I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, they clearly were doing I mean, if there was no TNA, this rollout wouldn't have happened.
Oh, so you think if he was just going to do UFC or Pride or some MMA or something, if there was no like number 2 US company for him to go to, they wouldn't have even cared?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think if there was no like other option or a competitor, they would have just been like, WWE wishes Kurt Angle the best of luck in his future endeavors.
Because we're going to go to talk about some Kurt Angle interviews he did after he signed with TNA, where like the response to it was like, that's not what he said when he left WWE. And I would be like, that was a PR rollout written by WWE.
Yeah.
You know? Of course that's not what he said. He might not have even said it. In response to an inquiry by a PW Torch reader concerning Kurt Angle's health, his agent Dave Hawk wrote, "If Kurt would have stayed with WWE, we would have lost a legend before his time. You have no idea what WWE was doing to him, his family, and his life, and one day that real story will surface. Kurt is in great health and getting healthier daily while preparing for TNA with the full support of his family and friends. If you like Angle at WWE, you are going to love him at TNA. He now has been given a glimmer of hope to truly expand his career and what he does best. You will soon see a more complete athlete than ever before. Also, since he will not have to wrestle 4 days a week and travel daily, he has the time to recover, and you will see a ground and pound killing machine at a higher level than ever before. If Kurt didn't believe this was a serious and perfect move, he would have never made the change and commitment."
Yeah. Shout out to Dave Hawk, a real one. I do like them like going, oh shit, we have to kind of bite back on this narrative now.
Yeah, it's because like there was a 2-part interview with Dixie on TNAWrestling.com that I'm not sure was it in response to this, but they felt the need to address it in there, which is weird to do. Like that's like part of the main Kurt Angle signed with TNA rollout that Dixie is like, nah, wait a minute, don't you be mean to us about this. This is cool.
Yeah, like we're objectively doing something cool. Don't do this.
So, like, while people did worry about Kurt, and I think we're worrying about Kurt from a good place, I think the way they were worrying about Kurt was also defined by a WWE PR agenda.
Yeah.
WWE sent a nasty legal letter to Angle with a series of demands. Dave says he's not sure of all of them, but he was only told the comedy sections, as he puts it. The funniest is that they demanded Angle and TNA never refer to his finisher as the Angle Lock. Angle was joking because he had no idea anyone ever called it the Angle Lock to begin with, thinking it's always just been the Ankle Lock.
What about the Tangle Lock?
No, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
They also demanded that Angle not call himself the Wrestling Machine or the Machine, and that while he can wear a mouthpiece, it can't have Machine written on it. I guess we'll find out next week when he gives Joe the former Angle Slam if WWE claimed ownership of that. Mike Tenay does call it the Olympic Slam, so there you go.
And they say, I like this Dave note, of being like, the US Olympic Committee wouldn't allow them to call it the Olympic Slam.
Which they do, because I doubt the Olympic Committee are ever finding out.
Yeah, I like his like subsection of that too, where he's like, even though it's the name used in Noah when Takeshi Segura used the same move, and it's like, yeah, no one in the Olympics is watching Noah.
Yeah, the Japanese Olympic Committee are watching that like a hawk, like a Dave Hawk, some might say, and then being like, no, Olympic Slam not allowed. You must call it the Segura Slam.
You must call it the big event slam.
Kurt Angle spoke to the wrestling media for 90 minutes on Tuesday afternoon, a conference call organized by TNA. During the Q&A, he ripped apart Vince McMahon as a boss, heaped praise on new box Dixie Carter, predicted that TNA, with his help, would overtake WWE in as soon as a year, blamed Triple H politics for his lack of push, says he hasn't taken pain pills since kicking the habit 3 years ago, and boasted numerous times that he was the greatest wrestler in WWE during his years there, if not the best of all time. Hours later, he issued a statement saying that he began taking pain pills 3 years ago and meant to say that he kicked the habit 18 months ago.
Sounds like a crazy press conference.
We have some quotes, but yeah, I would love to actually listen to something like that, just to hear Kurt going off.
Yeah. Again, part of it is he just sounds pissed. Like, he just sounds like he felt really disrespected by them on the way out.
Which, as I said, when you look at what that PR rollout was, they threw him under the bus, man. Like, yeah. If I were him, I would also be pissed. Some quotes from that press conference. In the past, I was never given time to properly heal and rehabilitate, he said. He said that when he made the deal with TNA President Dixie Carter, he said he would only wrestle when he feels 100%, 260 to 300 dates a year with his former employer. He expects to wrestle as much as he can for TNA when they need him the most. He added, I am the new name and face of TNA, therefore I do have responsibilities that I should be at the most important events. At the same time, they're going to give me enough rest so that I can heal up so I can go 100%. He said he's tried to go less than 100% at times, but what I've learned about myself is I can't slow down.
Which is crazy. That's that goat mentality.
I feel like a lot of wrestlers do have that sicko brain though, where they're like, even if I can't, even if I shouldn't, I'm still going to do it. I'm sorry.
The show must go on.
When asked what frustrated him during his 6 years in WWE, he said he felt he wasn't getting proper medical care or rest. Basically, I felt I was getting buried into the ground. When I'd ask for time off, they'd say, okay, you're getting it. But when that time came, they said they needed me because someone else went down. Regarding his MMA intentions and a huge offer to wrestle Brock Lesnar on the New Year's Eve show for K1 in Japan, he acknowledged that offer was made. He said he received retirement kind of money to work MMA. They obviously feel I'm a very big commodity as an Olympic gold medalist and one of the best known pro wrestlers today, he said. He said timing is important to him. He said he went with TNA instead of accepting an MMA offer at this time because they gave him room to spread his wings and get involved in MMA in the future if he chooses to do so and to take time off to train. There was also talk of them like doing a fight against, I think it was Rolls Gracie. It was one of the Gracies. We'll talk about the UFC as well in a minute. But yeah, there were a lot of MMA offers for Kurt, as you would expect, for a star of his name who's also an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been a great idea.
Him actually shoot fighting?
No.
Yeah.
He's too broken down at this point. And the problem is he would have the same Punk thing, right? Where it's like, if Punk was just doing like really low level shit, it probably would have been fine. But like, if you get Kurt, you're gonna do like Kurt Shamrock, you know what I mean? And like, he's just gonna get fucking mauled.
He is an Olympic gold medalist, though. That's a little above CM Punk.
He's also old and broken. And I'm saying, like, they didn't give Punk any fucking thing real either. But like, I'm saying, like, comparably to his start and to his pedigree, they would throw him in there with like a tippy top name of 2006 MMA, and he would be murdered.
He is quite broken and old.
Like, they would throw Tito Ortiz, they would throw Ken Shamrock, you know?
We'll talk about who they offered him, actually, for his first fight in a second. He said in a separate interview with Bubba the Love Sponge, Triple H hogs the show and has booking power, which makes it tough for others like him. Angle said he had a lot of heat with Triple H because Triple H wouldn't put him over. He explains that he believes Triple H tapped out to Benoit because Benoit has no charisma, and he tapped out to Cena because Cena can't wrestle that well. But he wouldn't tap out to Angle because Angle was the true total package who had charisma and could wrestle and thus was a threat.
That rules.
Angle said he doesn't respect Triple H as a person. Triple H was against Angle getting the belt a few years back because Angle was too small. When Jerry Briscoe suggested Triple H do a shoot fight with Angle to see how much Angle's size really mattered, Triple H backed down on Angle not getting the belt.
That rules.
Kurt Angle was very engaged in everything happening before Bound for Glory on Sunday. He spent time talking to a number of TNA wrestlers such as Abyss, Christian, and Rhino, among others. He was at ringside watching the dry run spots that Jarrett and Sting practiced before the match. The whole time he was chewing tobacco, which surprised those who hadn't been around him, although he had been seen with Chew on at least one WWE DVD before with some backstage footage. Angle seemed healthy and totally clean and sober at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, he's fucking chomping out on that tobacco.
That's what's keeping him happy.
Yeah, you gotta have your replacements.
You go from one addiction to another.
Yeah, well, the ideal like is that you like slowly wean down to less damaging things, but like it's pretty much impossible to just go like to nothing.
My addiction, producing good content.
My addiction, pro fucking wrestling.
What?
New shirt coming soon.
In the Mr. Anderson Pro Wrestling is real, people are fake font, though.
Yeah, my addiction, pro wrestling.
Damn right. Dana White said this week in interviews with both Dave Meltzer and Alex Marvez that you can be an entertainer or you can be a fighter, but he doesn't have any interest in people doing both.
Yeah, that fucking works out for you, doesn't it, you fucking joke of a human being.
He would have no problem with a guy who did pro wrestling with the right background, who then trained and worked full-time at fighting, but expressed no interest in using an active full-time pro wrestler. He noted how Angle had been saying how his body was so damaged by pro wrestling and he wanted to rest and go into fighting. I want guys who want to be real fighters, he said. We had a great meeting when Angle came to Las Vegas, staying at a luxury suite in the Red Rock. Maybe he means Hard Rock, unless Red Rock is a hotel I've never heard of. To work out a deal with UFC a few weeks ago. I honestly thought we had him, said White. White revealed his plans were almost exactly what Angle's side had talked about wanting. The agreement was that Angle would appear on Ultimate Fighter 5, which starts filming in January, as a wrestling coach on one of the teams, while at the same time his role in the show would be to learn the other skills with the fighters. That show would air April through June, and then he would debut most likely with the Daniel Puder fight on next year's June or July pay-per-view show. So Dano said he's a nice guy, but I'm not going to blur the line between pro wrestling and MMA. He told me that pro wrestling ruined his life, and the next thing you know, he tells me he's going back to pro wrestling. White acknowledged by not going any farther with the deal, it could lead potential for Pride or an upstart to use Angle's name to up their profile in North America. While White wouldn't reveal the numbers, he said Angle did come to him with his TNA offer and UFC topped it, but said they have to be paying him a boatload of money.
I take it back. I take everything I said back. I want an Ultimate Fighter season with Kurt, and I want Kurt to fight Daniel Puder and then die.
Yep, die in the octagon.
Yeah.
He lived in a hexagon, but he could have died in a octagon.
I wish he did the cage moonsault in the UFC.
Yes, that would be so sick. Who's that dude who did the springboard kick?
Yeah.
Kurt could have innovated.
Should have been.
So those are our Kurt Angle updates. A lot of skepticism, some of it justified, some of it I think slotting into an agenda a company wanted it to slot into. But as we said last time, it, broadly speaking, works out.
Yeah.
As things go, TNA, if he was to continue wrestling or doing anything, TNA was probably the best bet for him in terms of the schedule and all of that. And he seems in a healthy and happy place these days.
Yeah.
Although Kevin Nash hung out at last week's TNA TV taping, there's no indication of any progress with negotiations for a contract renewal. That does change very shortly. In fact, the old booking committee feel they were taken for a ride and have egg on their faces because in the end, egg on their face?
Yeah, his name is Egg now.
Is that his actual name?
No.
Okay.
But that is what we are referring to him as.
Because he is very bald.
Yes.
And he is a very auraless bald man.
Yes.
In fact, it has made him look like 15 years older.
He looks like a shoot turtle.
Sure, yes.
Not a worked one, a shoot turtle.
Yeah, a real turtle, not a fake turtle. None of those 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle costumes.
Nope.
Real turtle, like the one in the Michael Bay CGI movie.
Like the one in Master of Disguise.
Uh-huh.
Is Shota Umino turtly enough for the Turtle Club? Yes.
But the old booking committee feel like they have egg on their faces because in the end he made fools of them. The theory with Nash among those who liked him and believed he really did want to help TNA...
They're all talking like it's a foregone conclusion.
Is that he got so frustrated, Liam, with the bad booking in TNA and the lack of any push of Chris Sabin during the weeks his vignettes with Alex Shelley were airing, that he just gave up doing the company any favors because he saw they were too incompetent creatively to make it worthwhile. That's why he didn't put him over, Liam.
He also forgot about all of the copious injuries he suffered that prevented him from working.
Yeah, when he was lifting the thing out of his children's toy box or whatever.
Yeah, it's just bad timing.
Sure. I do love that as an excuse, though. It's just they were not booking Chris Sabin enough for me to do the job to him. I'm actually defending Chris Sabin by not losing to him. TNA management strongly denies Nash's story that the original booking of his match with Sabin was booked to make Sabin look like he got a lucky win and that Nash balked at that. Nash's contention since this fallout seems to be that he wanted to do it right, but the booking team was so scared he'd say no to anything that made sense, but also put him in a position to have to put Sabin over convincingly, that they proposed the weakest scenario possible, hoping he'd at least say yes to that. And once again, instead of going, hey guys, I'll just lose to him, he's like, no, I can't lose them, it's not worth it.
Kevin Nash, he wants to take that cradle shock.
He does. He wants to eat it on his head clean. One high-profile X Division wrestler says reports that there is heat on Nash among X Division wrestlers are completely blown out of proportion. He said Nash was cool all along with everybody, but when he didn't show up for the pay-per-view, people just shrugged their shoulders and didn't really care because nobody felt at that point Nash doing a job would have meant anything anyway for a variety of reasons. It was what it was, and by that point, it didn't matter anymore to anyone.
That's so funny.
Nash must be the coolest guy on earth.
Yeah.
Because objectively here, he fucked over Chris Sabin by goofing him around for like 3 months and then not losing to him. And everyone's like, that's just Kev being Kev. He's a cool dude.
They're like, yeah, but he has immaculate vibes.
Yeah.
Have we considered the vibes?
I was listening to our Days of Thunder friends as well, where they were talking about how like Kevin Sullivan got the book and like the Radicals wanted to leave. But like no one cared about Kevin Nash potentially getting into booking power because everyone thought Kev was cool.
Yeah.
Kev was their friend, you see.
He's always their friend.
He might be the best politician of all time because, like,
yeah,
not only like did he work himself into great positions, but he made everyone feel good about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's his aura too sick. What can you say?
Because like Hogan could politic himself into any money-making position, but people would fucking hate him for it. Nash could politic himself into any money-making position, and everyone would think he was a hero.
Yeah, because he is a hero.
In a move that puts an end to any talk of a DX versus NWO feud, which I didn't realize was a thing people were talking about in 2006.
Shit.
But Kevin Nash re-signed with TNA.
2006 DX versus 2006 Scott Hall and Kevin Nash? Fuck.
It's the dream, Liam.
Oh, bro.
And you can add Sean Waltman and Hulk Hogan to make it a 6-man tag.
Well, yeah, but like Waltman could be like, which side is he on? It's devastating news.
Think of all the comedy skits DX could have done about how the NWO were old.
They could have like put their faces up so many Big Show's assholes.
Oh, it would have been cinema, some might say. They could have dropped black and white goop from the ceiling on them.
Exactly. Nash could have been like slightly out of it.
Yes, slightly off position. In what is still one of my favorite wrestling clips of all time. His contract had expired right after he didn't participate in his scheduled pay-per-view singles match against Chris Sabin. He will now conclude his X Division storyline, which ended midstream when his deal expired. He is still limited on what he can do in the ring. An X Division Invitational Gauntlet Battle Royal has been added to Bound for Glory with Nash, facing a variety of X Division wrestlers of his choosing. He's not in the match.
He certainly does do that.
He does face 20 X Division wrestlers.
Which again, people would have hated because he would have beat them all.
Yeah, he would have beaten D-Ray 3000 and we would have raged.
Mm-hmm.
He would have powerbombed Zach Gowen.
And we all would have been livid.
Dixie Carter said she has heard the concern about bringing Vince Russo on board to help Jeff Jarrett and Dutch Mantel book TV, but she is confident in what Russo can bring to TNA. He really doesn't want to have to say this one.
He truly is one of the most creative people I've ever been around. And with the time slot switch and knowing other exciting things in the company's near future, it was the right time to bring a fresh set of eyes to the creative process. He isn't a fresh set of eyes.
That is the thing.
He's been doing this for fucking 15 years.
When asked if she was concerned about Russo's questionable storyline decisions from the past, Carter said Russo is a different person with a different way of thinking.
Vince Russo is a different man today than when he first joined TNA.
Carter said.
His faith is now the center of his life. He always had an amazing heart, but his priorities over the past few years have shifted tremendously.
Carter did acknowledge Russo's reputation for having a polarizing personality. She also defended Russo's first stint in TNA as a writer when he was blamed for some bad ideas he had nothing to do with.
Vince is a lightning rod, which I guess is good and bad.
She said.
At TNA, he has taken a lot of hate for things he had absolutely nothing to do with. Anytime something questionable happens on our show, it was always attributed to Vince, whether he had anything to do with it or not. And that has already started again.
I do like the idea that Dixie identifies that there are questionable things happening on her show. And the idea is not like to stamp that out. It's like, no, it's not Vince's fault.
Yeah. who she just said, like, thinks differently than everyone else, and you would equate that to the questionable things and big swings that don't hit. So after all of my lamenting, I will now say that Vince Russo, I am happy with him coming in.
Based on 1 month.
Based on the fact that I think his shows are more interesting than the droll that is the Jeff Jarrett promotion.
Yep.
Based on the fact that I enjoy a more like angle heavy show. I wish the matches were a little like treated with more respect, but I think angle heavy Impact is more interesting. Because like I'm kind of a believer in like TV to me like should be like big things happening and like big angles and stories, and then like you have good matches to like sort of balance that out and create like a harmonious show, with the idea that your like pay-per-views are where your true like match of the year level stuff happens.
Yep.
And like I think Vince does 80% of that. The question being like, you know, he often does big swing angles. The drawback is the matches suffer because of that. So it's like I am okay with it. I will take him over other people that have booked these shows. But it does, like, when you just have the bad taste, like, my problem with Vince is at this point, I'm just like, I know that he's, like, the end of this company's relevance for, like, a decade. Because, like, he is the reason this company, like, gets off spike and then is just fucked for, like, 10 years.
Yeah, because as you said, there is one definitive truth about our time covering TNA so far, and that is Vince Russo is, I would say, leaps and bounds a more interesting wrestling creative figure than Jeff Jarrett and Dutch Mantel by like a wide distance.
And nothing about this is like this run, he's not on TV,
which does help.
Even though you know he's a pretty remarkable TV character. It's just like I don't know. I think I would rather feel the Vince Russo than hear and see the Vince Russo, even though like I think he's probably a better character than he is a booker. It's just like I would rather one or the other. And I don't think you can get Vince Russo the character without Vince Russo the writer. So it's like the only real option is Vince Russo the writer without Vince Russo the character. Overall, I'm not super against this decision. I think the other times he gets brought back are worse. I just, like, I get it. I think the religion thing is a fucking joke, though. And, like, like don't justify bad creative with he found God.
He found Jesus, Liam, so he can write wrestling better.
He's doing the alt-right pivot thing of being, like the Kevin Spacey of, yes, I was a pedophile, but I found God.
That is a very funny thing. It's like, he's not going to write all the trash anymore because he likes Jesus.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Like, I guess one thing you can say, I mean, how long does Russo end up staying?
Until 2012.
So it's like, the whole Knockouts boom was under Russo.
And Dutch.
So it's like, yeah, Russo and Dutch. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't necessarily say that, like, this run, he doesn't achieve anything good. Like, he clearly does have, like, things that became synonymous and became the factor in TNA that made it stand out, like, they do happen under Russo. Yeah, we're the Russo Apologist podcast.
I do think the best period of Vince Russo's writing, other than when he's under Vince, and even arguably even accounting for when he was under Vince, I think, like, this isn't the worst. Like, this run, he has, like, broad booking power. He's not the only force in the room. There were other people there.
Which, by the way, I think is what we've always said is when Russo is best. It's like, he needs checks and balances.
Yeah.
Ideally, you have Russo in there with someone who actually enjoys pro wrestling.
Yeah, because that's the problem with having him in there with Vince, is that, like, Vince also hates wrestling, so...
Yeah.
Vince would veto Russo shit, but then put other garbage there in its place.
Yeah.
But, like, this run, which is, like, until Hogan Bischoff come in and then the creative changes to more their vision, like, 2006 to 2009 is not the worst. Like, it's not what you would want TNA to be, and particularly, like, there are characters that stall out, and if you want wrestling on your television show, you are fucking not getting it, even though there is occasionally periods where there's good wrestling on Impact. But, like...
I think it's just because there's, like, all-time pro wrestlers who can make, like, chicken salad out of chicken shit.
You can put Chris Sabin on TV in a 4-minute match, and the 4-minute match will be good.
Yeah, you can have Curtin, like, any number of people, and there's, like, the 6 minutes they get is gonna be, like, kick-ass.
But yeah, the TV it's watchable. It's not like
Yeah.
because that's the thing about the 2014 comeback, and that like I think Russo at least still had a little bit of creative juice here. He clearly had some creative passion. By the time he's brought back in 2014, that shit's gone. It's just like all the bad Russo with none of the juice. There's no like AJ Styles praying to his grandmother about whether or not he should go with Christian or Kurt. There's none of that like fun, silly stuff at that point. All of that's out the window. It's just miserable.
Like, to give credit to ISIS, like a lot of what we want from TNA's identity is things that are going to be developed in this run. You know, the TNA comedy, the knockouts, the rise of certain people. Like, you have to kind of take the bad with the good. And I feel like a lot of the bad happens in like the first year, and then he kind of mellows.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to get rid of like that initial sort of like, you know, the electrified cage and stuff like that, right? But like I think he mellows eventually.
Yeah, like 2008, 2009 has less of the pure nonsense as 2007 does.
Yeah.
But like you watch these shows and you notice, like we did talk about how like philosophically TNA wasn't too far from Russo. It was already a very angle talking heavy show with wrestling being in a back seat. And somehow like in this month, you very, very quickly notice how wrestling takes an even bigger backseat to angles and promos. Like there is a formula to matches on this month where the match will start and within a minute, without fail, somebody will come to ringside, somebody will join commentary, will cut backstage to somebody scheming or watching or doing something. Like he is terrified people will lose their attention. And like the matches are already only 3 or 4 minutes long, but even then he has to go straight to an angle within the first minute. Like wrestling has never meant less on this show. It's kind of crazy how quickly that happens.
My thing is like as long as the line between pay-per-view and TV stays divine, in that like as long as on pay-per-view you're still getting quality matches, like I'm okay with TV not being a match forward presentation, especially on like an hour-long show. Like if you're doing a Dynamite, there's kind of a reason you need like some 15-minute bangers in there. You know what I mean? You're filling up time. But it's like with an hour show, if like the best you could ask for was like a 10-minute like good match, you know what I mean? So I'm okay with like a short 1 hour show not being like we gotta have like banger after banger after banger.
And like I have long lamented the death of TV wrestling. Like TV wrestling as like a philosophy. Like TV wrestling is different from pay-per-view wrestling. You wrestle faster. You're wrestling to like the idea of television, not the idea of like, because it's like the difference of attention span, I guess, right? Because if someone bought a pay-per-view, you know they're willing to be taken on that journey. They're sitting down to watch that match, as opposed to television where someone has a remote in their hand at all times and has no commitment to what they're watching. So like that's the philosophy. It has to be faster and attention grabbing.
Again, to give credit to ISIS.
Lots of credit to ISIS today.
You gotta hand it to him. Like, historically, through ratings, where does the drop-off happen in a pro wrestling show? It's during the matches.
Yeah.
Matches don't retain viewership.
Except for AEW. AEW is the weird outlier there. Because...
Yeah.
Ultimately you train your audience, I guess, isn't it? Like if there's because like there has been 60-minute matches on AEW TV, and historically those 60-minute matches have gained audience because AEW has trained their audience to expect better wrestling from television, as opposed to like if you are watching Russo TV, you have trained your audience immediately to be like, wrestling doesn't matter, give me the angle, I'm waiting for the angle.
And I feel like though it's like it is an interesting gambit or interesting like thought process to be like, it was 2006 wrestling TV audiences ready for that?
Probably not.
It's like, and like again, like, you know, train them. Maybe they would be. Maybe that'd be a thing that would help them stand out. But like, I don't know. I can understand the mindset of like, if you're looking at history at that point, to be like, the matches don't matter. We have to keep things happening. Boom, bam, boom, bam, boom.
Mm-hmm. And like that is the Vince Russo television philosophy, like for better or worse, which actually it was the problem with the 2014 stuff, because the 2014 stuff was boring. It's like it was Russo bad and Russo boring, as opposed to like these shows, you do not have time to get bored. It is fundamentally impossible. You are moving to a new thing every 90 seconds,
which again is like why I'm sort of excited for this era.
Vince Russo was, quote-unquote, in charge of the Bound for Glory pay-per-view behind the scenes. He frequently stepped out into the back of the arena during the pay-per-view to monitor crowd reactions and see the matches in person. Backstage observers say there was no doubt he was in charge at the pay-per-view. Dutch Mantel took a step back in his duties and let Russo handle a lot. He had an answer for everyone, says one wrestler. When he stepped out into the crowd to watch some of the event, he would provide updates on the score of the local baseball team, the Detroit Tigers, who were playing in the World Series game that night.
Okay.
Which, by the way, when TNA booked the venue for Bound for Glory, how pissed do you think that not only did the Detroit Tigers get to the World Series final, they were playing a home game that night head-to-head?
Yeah. But they still, crowd looked good.
Yeah, they drew like 700-ish, which was close to sold out.
They were sure to be like, hey, look how we did, even against World Series Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, so they did pretty well in the end. Apparently there was a big uptick when Angle got signed, as you might expect.
Yeah, I mean, that was the saving grace for that building, I guess.
Team 3D signed a 1-year contract extension at the most recent Impact tapings on September 25. As is the case with newly signed contracts, TNA has an option to pick up the second year of the contract. Monty Brown looks to be quitting, as he still hasn't signed his new contract that wasn't on the last TV. Dixie Carter said she is still working on keeping him, but friends of Brown say his contract officially expired on September 30th, and he's not signing a new one. He hasn't decided whether he will try and go to WWE. Brown has a personal training job that gives him a 6-figure income, and he is able to
do not go. What are you doing?
and work TNA since there are so few dates per month. However, he was promised the NWA title before Christian was signed, and Christian basically got his title run, and he felt lied to. Company management tried to get Brown to work more indie dates because he had a good look and had charisma, but his in-ring in general was holding him back, which I still think is bullshit, from being where the company wanted him to be. The feeling is if he worked more indie dates, he'd improve faster, but he didn't want to take so many dates as it interfered with his regular job. You're a bunch of fucking marks. He was awesome.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know, man. Do you want him to be Joe?
And Jarrett's matches sucked. Jarrett's matches weren't good. You can't be like, match quality's important and Jarrett's in those fucking main events.
Yeah, but he's the one saying that.
And he thinks his matches are good. Scott Steiner has been off TV for 2 months as the two sides haven't reached a contract agreement.
What? I truly did not notice once.
You did not notice that Steiner wasn't here?
Yeah.
Steiner doesn't want independent bookings handled by TNA. Bill Behrens handles all its independent bookings. So the plan originally was Team 3D versus the Steiners at Bound for Glory, and Steiner's contract issues took that off the table.
I did feel like that was kind of where they were building. Like with Team 3D's whole we'll take on any team of the past, present, or future thing.
Oh yeah, and then it just ended up in a random 4-way tag. You will get that Steiner's match next year at Bound for Glory.
Yeah.
They kept that one in mind.
Yeah.
Spanish announcer Moody Jack, or Hector Melendez, quit to take a job helping IWA in Puerto Rico with Savio Vega. Melendez asked for a raise since he's been there now for a few years, and he was given a $100 a week raise that he found insulting, so he left. Willie Urbina, who is the WWC announcer, was brought in to take his place. There had been talk of bringing Ray Gonzalez in to take Conan's place and have Conan just work as a manager, but that hasn't happened yet. Conan and Jeff Jarrett had a confrontation at TV.
Hell yeah.
Conan basically demanded a raise or said he would quit. Jarrett was trying to get Conan to sign the new converted contracts where TNA books all its contracted guys for their house show dates. Conan has refused to switch over, wanting to control his Mexico bookings, which AAA does, and Lucha Libre style independent bookings in North America. Conan's argument is he signed his contract when he wasn't being used well. Now he's not only managing the company's top act, but he's also... You don't think top act?
I don't think LAX is the top act.
They're a top 5 act in the company.
Yeah, of course. The top act. Because there's 5 good acts.
That's true. It's Joe, it's LAX. All right, maybe they are top 2.
Yeah, okay, I take it back.
But he's also doing the... Christian, maybe 3. But he's also doing the Spanish announcing and then was the person who set up the Mexico bookings as well for the Arena Monterrey show that TNA did recently. So he wanted a substantial raise. Jarrett felt that both sides had signed a contract in good faith, and it wasn't in good faith to then renegotiate that contract in the middle of the term. Conan said if he didn't get a raise, he was going to work full-time in Mexico. He was offered a raise to stay, but there's still something of an impasse about TNA wanting to control his bookings in Mexico.
Yeah, they want that fucking cut.
Because he's worth way more in Mexico than he is in America.
Yeah.
The planned TNA Portugal shows, which I believe were set to be in November or late October maybe, was moved to the 5th of January due to problems with getting visas, authorizations, and licenses on time. About 2,500 tickets have been sold, with many people coming from foreign countries. The big negative is with WWE coming for 2 shows in December, the first major shows in the country in more than a decade, a January date may not be the best. It's still going to be in the 7,000-seat Campo Pequeno Bull Ring in Lisbon. There was tons of advertising for the show, including all over the WWE programming. So these shows do happen in January.
That's good, at least.
There is also an interesting historical note about those shows, in that there is one man who has only worked TNA on those shows. Do you know who it is?
No.
He was in a 4-way match with Johnny Storm, Jody Fleisch, and Spud.
Oh.
The man who gravity forgot, Pac.
Oh. Wow, that's kind of crazy.
He has only ever worked 2 TNA dates, 2 shows in Portugal.
Break orbit.
Those shows did really well. One did 5,000 fans, the other did 2,700, so...
How do we not have footage of these fucking shows?
Because it was 2007, man. They didn't film that shit.
That's so stupid. They're like bigger shows than anything else you're running. Bring a goddamn camera.
Even the UK shows, it took them, 3 years to finally start making that stuff TV?
Yeah.
Like, that stuff was doing crazy numbers and, crazy crowds, and they were just doing house shows for, 3 or 4 years before they're finally like, we should film that stuff for television.
It's so stupid.
Steve Borden hosted the Praise the Lord talk show on the TBN network last week. The show opened with Borden, rarely referred to as Sting during the broadcast, Nikita Koloff and Lex Luger standing together to introduce the program. Sting introduced Koloff, who cut a promo on no longer being the Russian Nightmare, but rather referring to himself nowadays as the Devil's Nightmare.
I was going to say the American Nightmare.
No, it's taken. He made a bunch of goofy faces and stuck his tongue out a whole lot while Sting took the mic again. Sting briefly talked about Luger's recent conversion before they went to a break. When the show came back, Sting played the role of Johnny Carson with Luger as his guest. Sting and Luger walked through Lex's career from college on. Luger talked about how he was a standout student athlete and how he had access to everything he wanted. He talked about getting kicked out of the University of Miami for misconduct at a time where it was virtually impossible to do so. Sting talked about how a lot of the other wrestlers resented Luger getting everything handed to him at first in his career, but how he managed to earn it in time and stay near the top for several years. Luger talked about how living a double life as a husband and father at the time and a hard partying star on the road, saying everyone looked to him to find out where the party was. He choked up talking about Miss Elizabeth dying in his arms as he dialed 911 in their townhouse and how it haunts him to this day. Luger's tone was somber during the entire interview as he looked down at the ground during every one of his responses. The only point where he perked up was when he talked about his jail time after being detained at the Canadian border, during which his now pastor came to visit him and won him to Christ. He said he is getting his life back on track, and after recognizing that God is, in his words, the real total package, and said that he is dedicating his life from here on to being
fucking stupid.
to being a warrior for Christ. Sting also interviewed a blind former drug addict from his church and a minister heading up a cruise ship ministry he is working with. He hardly spoke about his wrestling career except how he, Nikita, and Luger still get in the ring once in a while. I tried to find footage of this. I couldn't. I was so mad.
Damn it.
The September 25, 2006 episode is on YouTube, and I was like, oh, sure, this must have been roughly in that period. Nope, couldn't find it. I do not want to mock people finding Christ and the faith people find, but when you come
I'll do it.
When you're like, the real total package is God, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
I'm the
mock
devil's
it.
nightmare.
And the real total package is Vince Russo, who will now not write his horrible misogynistic shit because he found God in Jesus.
It's so, listen, some people obviously need it. You know, by all accounts, Sting not doing too well before he found the Big J.
Yep.
So I wish him the best.
I kind of get why a lot of wrestlers find Jesus.
Well, because they don't want to take accountability for their own terrible misdeeds.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I was going to frame it a little better than that, but that's pretty much it. That for all the debauchery they get up to, they probably need something to guide them toward the light.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's a slightly less abhorrent version of anyone who's done a sex crime is like, I found Jesus, don't put me in prison.
Sure.
It's probably a little less cynical.
Yeah, when you see Russell Brand do it, you are like, fuck off.
Yeah, It's like a less cynical version of that because it is mostly for them still. But like it's a way of justifying or absconding oneself from their darkest moments, which again, I guess people need, but like you should probably take accountability at the same time. And some people do. Some people don't just go, wow, like Jesus has saved me and has forgiven me. Some people take that as an opportunity to try and make amends for their mistakes. But I don't know. I'll always roll my eyes a little bit at it just because I am a horrible cynic.
Damn right. Lex Luger is about to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
He is. Along with Triple H.
Yes, along with Triple H and Michelle McCool. What a class.
Mm.
Do you think Sting inducts him?
He should.
Yeah, and if you go back to the TNA Hall of Fame, Lex Luger inducted Sting.
But it's like, Tony.
If you're Tony and you get the request, what do you say?
I say, oh god, that's one of those non-enviable tasks of his position. I would accept it with, I want something in return though.
A little like TNA Gimme Christian for a show?
Yeah, I want, what do I want though? I want Penta to go out on the show and go, I had a great time in AEW.
Do that on Raw on Netflix and you got Sting.
I don't know what I would want in return. Let me, like, I don't know, man.
Cody Rhodes' return to...
Yeah, well, it's like, it has to be something Cody related, you know? But it's like, what would they even allow?
You know what I would ask for?
Oh, actually, I know what I'd ask for. Wait, I want to see if it's the same thing.
I would ask for Bailey.
I see. I was gonna say, when Sting comes up to introduce him, I want a lower third that says AEW Superstar or whatever.
Listen, that would be a default. That would be, yes, that would be like a contractual term, not a favor in return.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would ask for Bailey, and I would do something with Bailey and Mercedes.
Okay. I don't think you're getting I don't think you're getting anyone actually appearing on the show.
No, you're not, but that's what I would ask.
You have to have some sort of like background deal. Like, I want to use this music, or I want to use, I want Sting to be able to go up with an AEW pin on his fucking suit. You know, like.
I want him to give Lex Luger an AEW title belt as the Hall of Fame inductee thing.
I want Sting and Darby Allin to induct him. I want them to use his AEW music, you know? Like, I want to, like, that's like things like that, because that's all you're gonna get.
All right. Not a full in return. Not even like a Gibby Cody for a day so we can shoot a documentary or something?
I mean, yeah, maybe like that documentary thing, but you're not getting anything. You're not getting any WWE on AEW Dynamite.
But you give them a Sting. Sting's not nothing.
Yeah. But also, like, the part of it is, like, you kind of want to do it too, because, you know, you want to be nice to Sting. He's done a lot for you, and he probably wants to do the induction for his friend.
And it's good PR, you know, if you do let him do it.
I say give me fucking some Sting WCW footage.
That would be a good deal, actually, yeah.
Give me the rights to some Sting WCW footage, so I can use it in video packages in the future. That's what I would ask for.
That's solid.
I would ask for a man called Sting for his kids when they graduate.
That is the news. That brings us to broad topics, starting with the NWA World Title feud, which is, I guess, ostensibly Jeff Jarrett versus Sting, even though Sting is not on TV all month.
The World Title feud of Jeff Jarrett versus Samoa Joe.
The World Title feud of Samoa Joe plays keep away with the NWA title while also being in a Monsters Ball match.
It's a very silly feud. And it, like... I understand that it's like Sting's not here. He's got to get into not wearing a singlet shape, but and he has to go do a Jesus talk show.
Of course, priority.
But like Samoa Joe feels like a very big deal, and it feels like he should just be getting the world title shot. And it's funny, like he has two really like hot programs, one with Kurt and one with Jeff, and then his match is the Monsters Ball match, which just feels so much like below him in comparison.
Yeah, it is the thing. I always say, like, if I could reach back into history, it would be Christian Sting based off the turn at Bound for Glory, and then it would be Joe just beating Jarrett, and Joe's your NWA champion.
Like doing Joe Jarrett with Kurt as the enforcer for that.
And then you spin off into eventually doing Angle Joe down the line as Joe has a real title run. But yeah, it does feel weird. It's not the only program this month where like the go home angle is for a match that's not, because like AMW and the LAX do the same thing where they have a really hot angle on the go home show for a tag title match that's not on Bound for Glory.
Yeah, my guess is like that feels like more just how can we like heat up LAX as the biggest bastards. But it is it's certainly an interesting direction to go with it. I do think having Joe all over these shows and the like Jarrett keep away stuff was entertaining throughout the whole month though. So well, not like against it. It just feels like there should have been a better end point for Joe at Bound for Glory.
So coming out of No Surrender, there are two things coming forward. The world title match is already made. Sting agreed to do title versus career versus Jeff Jarrett, and also Kurt Angle is in TNA. So that's how we open the September 28th Impact. We open with the vignette again. Kurt Angle announces he's coming to TNA. We cut to Mike and Don. Mike is like, we're going prime time on Spike TV on November 16th at 9 p.m. And then Don is like, Kurt Angle's coming to TNA over and over again. He's very excited.
They're all very excited. This is a big coup.
It is. And this is the exact reaction you should have to Kurt Angle coming to TNA.
Yeah, whiny internet fans, torch listeners.
No, they said whatever the words they used were like informed wrestling fans, Liam. Informed.
I hate the informed wrestling fans. That's going to be my new Twitter gimmick.
That's actually going to be my competitor, the Wrestling Observer, the Wrestling Informer.
Wow.
I'm going to take down Dave Meltzer once and for all.
To be fair, Dave is more of an informer than an observer at this point.
That's true. He is not independent. Our opening match doesn't even get started, as it's meant to be Lance Hoyt versus Jeff Jarrett, but Jeff Jarrett wearing street clothes jumps Hoyt during his entrance. This is, and it kind of surprised me looking at it, this is Hoyt's first match on Impact since February.
He has been gone for a long time. I did notice it. My first instinct when this was happening was that Jeff Jarrett's getting the Abyss get your win back match. But he's like, I'm skipping that bullshit. I'm just going to beat the shit out of him.
It's going straight to jumping Hoyt. Yeah, I didn't even really notice Hoyt was gone that long. I knew he wasn't super around. But yeah, first match on Impact since February. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Jarrett chokes Lance with a strap and whips him. Jarrett says the name of our show, because at one point he is like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's Don's classic line.
Yeah, he's stealing it from us and Don. Jarrett shows the belt marks on his back and said he was beaten like a trade slave.
Crazy.
Yeah. He's also mad Joe left with the NWA title at the end of No Surrender. Jarrett demands that Cornette get his belt back by the end of the show. We do have a press conference that runs throughout multiple of the stories that we'll be running back to, because there's multiple different threads coming out of it.
This is the most interconnected month of television for storylines, I think, ever.
Yeah, we're going to cover the three heavyweight stuff back to back to back, but there's a lot of crossover. We could do it as one block, and we kind of are, but we will try and at least keep it story to story, so for some sense of coherence.
Okay, so basically the Christian Rana stuff is tangentially involved, but we might as well do the Monsters Bowl and the Jarrett stuff all together, because most of that is Samoa Joe related, and Samoa Joe is completely joined up to the Jarrett thing at the same time. So I think for example on this one we cover Joe Raven as well, but we don't cover the Christian Rhino recap stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah, because as you said, it is all bungled together into one kind of mesh of stuff that sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense, but
we're also an Angle show now, baby.
So yeah, at this press conference, we have Bagwell, Luger, LAX, Rhino, JB, and Cornette. This is where Cornette announces a bunch of Bound for Glory matches. Here he announces Joe versus Raven versus Runt versus Abyss in Monsters Ball. Plus, circles back to Jarrett versus Sting, title versus career. Angle will be involved in that match, and by the end of this episode, Cornette will announce how Angle will be involved in that Bound for Glory match. And they did the polite applause all these announcements got.
I was there, politely applauding.
You're like, hell yeah, I want that Monsters Ball. Samoa Joe faced Raven.
Raven looks like shit.
He's fallen so far down the pecking order at this point.
Yeah, he's this is a shadow of the man who was the hottest guy in the company for a couple of years.
Because this is Joe beating a former NWA World Champion, and at no point do they treat the idea of Joe beating Raven as important.
No.
This is just a guy for Joe to beat. It is not one of the biggest stars of this company for the last 3 years, which Raven objectively has been. It's just Joe running over some nerd that nobody cares about.
And the fans don't care either.
Joe goes for an elbow suicida, but Raven lifts a chair in his way instead. Jarrett is watching backstage, again going to the reoccurring theme that every match this month, something will happen within the first minute of it. So that, like, you cannot just have Joe against Raven, you have to show Jarrett, even though Jarrett's already been on this show. Joe chokes out Raven for the win. Raven does very egomaniacally spend like a minute in that choke before eventually tapping out. He did like do a very soft tap out. I thought he would pass out, but he did tap out. Runt slaps Joe a couple times, so Joe slaps the shit out of him. Well, Runt shows up, I guess. Runt did a run-in, and choked Raven with a chain. To go back to, again, within the first 3 minutes of this match, Jarrett on a monitor, Runt doing a run-in. It's Joe and Raven, and you already have two things happening.
Yeah, it's and like in the match that goes like 3 minutes.
Yeah, the match isn't even that long. But yeah, Runt slaps Joe a couple times, so Joe slaps the shit out of him and then press slams him onto Raven on the floor. Abyss appears behind Joe as they face off, a quick brawl before Joe boots Abyss out of the ring. Raven, Runt, and Abyss brawl as Joe goes to leave with the NWA title. Cornette appears and asks for the belt. Joe says if Corny wants the belt, tell Jarrett or Sting to come and get it.
And I like that Cornette's just really offended, but he's like, what am I going to do?
It's Samoa Joe. You going to take it from him?
Exactly.
We have a bunch of features this month on Sting. All of them are spooky. They're usually about he is lost in darkness, but he will find his way to his destiny and overcome Jeff Jarrett and bring the NWA title back into the light. There's a bunch of stuff like that.
That's a pretty good impression.
Thank you. That's my Barry Scott. We go back to the press conference. Lex Luger is Sting's surrogate. He's talking about how Sting is going to bring something Jarrett has never seen before. He's coming into Bound for Glory with a purpose. Bagwell, who is also Sting's surrogate, says Sting will win. He's been away training. So this is our kind of way to get around Sting not being on the show for 2 months. We have a bunch of features, and then Bagwell and Luger doing some talking head spots to put over Sting and his renewed effort to win the NWA World title.
Sting's a great friend, getting his boys paydays.
Yeah, what a nice guy. I would rather him not get Bagwell paydays personally, but that's neither here nor there. There's a career retrospective on Sting with comments from Luger and Bagwell. Talks about how TNA is giving Sting the chance to finish his career on a more positive note than WCW. Luger talks about TNA has class, and that's why Sting returned there.
It's very funny that like they basically redo this whole thing for his AEW run too. Like, AEW's here to finally give Sting the ending to his career that he wants.
Yeah, poor boy's been chasing it for a while. And unlike Undertaker, he did in fact get it, so.
He did.
JB has Jarrett. Jarrett calls in Eric Young. And Jarrett is like, EY, I'm giving you a second chance. He has instructed EY to get the NWA World title back from Samoa Joe. It's EY's night of redemption. After all his recent failures, after all his lie detector shenanigans, this is EY's chance to redeem himself. EY sheepishly tells Jarrett he can't do that. Jarrett issues an ultimatum. EY firmly says no. Jarrett says he'll deal with him later. He never does, so fair play to EY.
EY's like, I'm a face now. I'm not doing this shit.
And also, probably he's a little scared of Samoa Joe.
It's both.
JB is like, hey, good job, man. You stood up for yourself. And EY's like, what did I do? So EY, once again, standing up to Jeff Jarrett. He's his own man. He has a spine now. And then the press conference finally comes back out to the ring. All of this is in one show, by the way. Luger and Bagwell are there. Cornette announces that Angle will be the special guest enforcer for Sting versus Jarrett at Bound for Glory. Jarrett comes out. He's very mad. He wants his title back, and now we're going to have to do it the hard way. Cornette says if he wants it, he can go through Joe, and that's the hard way. Jarrett says Cornette is an impotent authority figure.
He's kind of right.
Yeah.
Like, it is kind of your job, Cornette.
Maybe that's why Cornette starts, like, issuing ultimatums later in the month, being like, oh, you're fired. Yeah. He's like, he's gotten to by Jarrett questioning his authority.
Or he's just like, yeah, I really need that belt back.
We do need it. It's not yours. Jarrett brawls with Luger and Bagwell. Luger goes straight down. Bagwell has to get some punches in. Even when like Bagwell is thrown out to the floor, he has to do a little like, oh, I'm selling my arm, and that's why I can't get back in. It's like, fuck you, Bagwell.
Hey, he's protecting himself.
It's very important that he protect himself, and his booking his friend got him. Joe makes the save as we go off the air. Joe is still not NWA champion, but holding the NWA title.
He's my NWA champion.
So yeah, all of that one episode. There's like 8 segments about this world title feud.
It's a lot. There's just gotta be a lot more going on now.
October 5th, 2006 Impact. In the show opening segment, we'll talk about the first part where we're talking about people getting fired. But at the end of that, JB asks about Joe and the belt, because Cornette is in the office with some nerds. Abyss and James Mitchell walk in, and they tell Cornette if Abyss can promise to get the NWA title back from Samoa Joe, will Cornette promise to give Abyss the first shot after Bound for Glory? Cornette calls Mitchell the sleaziest man he's ever known, but accepts this deal with the devil.
To be fair, he is someone who doesn't back out of his deals.
Yeah.
He's a relatively trustworthy individual when it comes to making a deal with... Like, he'll try. He may not work out, but he'll try.
But famously, there may be some side problems with it, with deals with the devil. They're not always the deal you sign on the face of it.
Yeah, it's like a monkey's paw scenario. But, like, you know, Mitchell has no reason to fuck this one up.
I guess.
He has all to gain, and all he has to do is get the belt.
Doesn't even have to beat Samoa Joe. He just has to incapacitate him briefly.
He could just have Abyss distract him, and he could grab the belt.
That is ultimately how Jeff gets it back.
Yeah.
Abyss and Mitchell are in the ring. They call out Joe because they want the NWA title back. Joe comes out with the title. Joe lays the title between them, and then they brawl. Abyss chokeslams Joe and picks up the belt. Jarrett runs out, grabs the belt. Abyss is mad, so Joe and Abyss beat down Jarrett. Joe goes to leave with the belt, but Abyss jumps him again. Joe drops Abyss with a power slam and leaves with the belt.
So it's not working out great.
He had his hands on it at one point.
Yeah, so technically, did he not return the belt? Jarrett just lost it again.
It was Jarrett's fault that like, if Jarrett just left it play out, Abyss probably would have brought that belt back to Cornette, but Jarrett had to stick his nose in it.
I think technically they did regain the belt briefly, so James Mitchell could argue that he deserves a shot.
And Abyss does end up getting the shot after Bound for Glory, so you know what?
On a technical, damn the devil! Take it back. Take it all back.
We get a spooky Sting video.
Once again.
JB has Jarrett and Christian. They're teaming up to face Ron Killings and Christopher Daniels in the main event. Why that team, we'll talk about when we get to the tag title feud. Jarrett is mad that he still doesn't have his title. Jarrett talks so long that Christian gets his own microphone so he can talk instead.
Yeah, I love, like, two cocky heels that are, like, in each other's way. Like, I really like that dynamic whenever you see, like, two guys that are like, alright, I'm the guy here. And it's just, yeah, I thought they did a good job with it. I enjoyed it.
Especially because it is Jarrett and Christian, two men who on this show hate each other. So if they're going to team in the main event, they should still hate each other. And they do still hate each other.
They do continue to hate each other.
Christian takes credit for all the good things happening in TNA lately. And unlike Jarrett, at No Surrender, he actually won. Plus, he points out he beat Jarrett for the NWA title back in February. So he's the captain of his team. And Jarrett should follow his lead.
He has a valid point.
He has proven himself superior to Jeff Jarrett in every way. Our main event, Jeff Jarrett and Christian Cage defeat Ron Killings and Christopher Daniels. Truth runs wild, but Christian dumps him out to the floor as we go to break. Hot tag to Daniels, but Homicide appears and slapjacks Daniels. Christian lines up a frog splash, but Jarrett jumps on the pin for the win. Jarrett grabs the microphone out of Christian's hand and calls out Joe. Joe comes out, brawls with Jarrett. Joe misses a knee, crashes to the floor. Jarrett has the belt back, but then Christian unprettiers him from behind and takes the belt for himself. Rhino appears out of nowhere, gores Christian. Belt falls back to Joe, who leaves with it.
I really enjoy that, like, Jarrett just has so many enemies in this world that, like, nothing can work at all because he will fuck it up and piss someone off immediately.
I do like the belt keep away thing. It is kind of fun.
And, like, it's one of the better cases of it because normally it's like someone just takes the belt and they're like, I am the real champion, and it's like kind of boring and played out. Like, I like this keep away angle. I think it's actually kind of fun.
And it somehow always ends up back with Joe.
Yeah. Like, a lot of the times, like, without his own doing. Like, it's not like he beat them up and then got the belt back.
Yeah, I enjoyed Christian taking the gore from Rhino because you can see him actively throwing the belt in the direction of Joe just to make sure it ended up with Joe.
I like to imagine that was just Christian being petty. Like, the character of Christian was still like, oh, well, I don't want Jarrett to fucking have it.
Yeah, Joe could have it, but Jarrett, nah. October 12th Impact. JB is outside Cornette's office. Jarrett emerges and says that sometimes the fight isn't worth fighting, and he's given up on trying to reacquire his belt.
There you go. And see, that's the key. You gotta let the world bring it back to you. That's what Joe's doing, and it's working really well.
It does. Every time he loses it, it does somehow like gravitate back to him. Samoa Joe is in the ring with the NWA title. He calls Jarrett a jackass. Not the stunts that were played at No Surrender, just a kind of horse. He says, for the last 4 years, the title has been held hostage by the worst men. Paper champion after paper champion. The belt has been used as a political leveraging tool. It hasn't gotten the respect it deserves. Men like Dory Funk and Harley Race treated the belt like a testament to being the best. At Bound for Glory, he'll hand the belt back to the man who wins the main event on one condition. He gets a title shot. Coolest man on earth.
Fair enough. He's got a lot of, like, you know, he's got aura, as the kids say.
Christian comes out, and Christian's like, Joe, you were just talking a lot about paper champion after paper champion. You might remember the guy before Jarrett that held that belt was me. Were you talking about me? And Joe was like, yes, I was talking about you.
Joe was like, well, Jarrett was number 1, but you're number 2.
Right up there. Christian says Joe can't beat him, says the NWA title was taken from him and he's taken it back. Then Joe invites him to take it, and Christian, instead of taking it right now, proposes they hang it above the building and have what is kind of an unsanctioned ladder match for the NWA title.
Have a ladder fight. A ladder fight.
Yes, they're simply going to have a gentleman's fight with a ladder and a belt hanging, but it's not a sanctioned ladder match because it's not an NWA title match.
Hence why I refused to rate it.
Even though it was the best match on TV this month.
It wasn't a match.
They're doing a gimmick throughout the month where they have people sitting down doing predictions for Jarrett and Sting. The first one here has
They're doing many gimmicks throughout the month.
There's so many segments on these TV shows, man. First one here has Ron Killings, and then Rhino, who is like, why the fuck do you want me to talk about this match? I want to kill Christian. I don't care about this match. We have a second one later in the show. Styles wishes it was Jarrett's career on the line instead of Sting, so Jarrett could get out of here.
Ha!
Christian, with his back to the camera, is also mad that they're asking him about Jarrett Sting when he's not involved in that match.
I like that. I like them being like, I got my own shit to worry about.
We get another spooky Sting promo focusing on how the lamp of the body is the eye, and if the eye is good, then you're good. And then Barry Scott does like some Raven promos but chanting.
Nevermore.
They are very much like that. It's like, and he will come, and he will defeat the great evil. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Franchise does the talking head spot instead of the Naturals. The Naturals just stand behind them, which I did like. Kip James says Jarrett is going to get what he deserves before BG James stops him. And he's like, Kip, you're an ass. You don't even know what Jarrett's all about.
Which kind of just goes nowhere.
There's a segment on the next show, yeah. I think it's the tee up the babyface turn they're planning for Jarrett, but it does feel like very much out of nowhere.
It's like, I don't know. I understand. I guess like BG and Jarrett have never really had a problem on the show.
No, they did. Like BG debuted feuding with Jarrett.
I forgot.
And like the Trio LK had problems with Jarrett too.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't as big of a feud for me to care.
Well, that's BG James in general.
Yeah.
This did also immediately come after the tease of a Diamonds and the Rock breakup, so teasing back-to-back
James
segments.
family drama.
Oh, no. No. We can't have James family drama. We've already had Trio LK family drama. We get the first sit-down interview with Kurt Angle. He talks about how he won an Olympic gold medal and then what would he do next. He went into wrestling and won 6 WWE titles before somebody said, you're not that special. There was nothing to prove in WWE anymore, and he saw TNA on the rise, so he came to TNA to beat everybody. Talks about how the roster has the eye of the tiger. Then talks about like his addiction to extra strength Vicodin after breaking his neck, but then TNA management looked after him and wanted to make sure his relationship with his wife and his children are going great. Which, like, it's one thing to cover that stuff in the media, which I probably wouldn't even do. I'd just like let people talk about it. Who cares? Putting that on the TV show is wild.
I think none of this should have been on the TV show. I think it is so sick, like low rent. I think to make like Kurt Angle's TNA jump all about WWE sucks. I think to make it about like fuck Vince like is stupid. I like this whole interview I think is a complete waste of time.
Yeah, it should just be like Kurt being like, TNA is the best. I want to fucking kill AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. Let's go. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be like, WWE was bad and they fired me, but they didn't fire me. I left. I didn't even want to be there anymore. Yes, I was addicted to extra strength Vicodin, but not anymore.
I think it's just stupid.
He mentions it's going to be a Kurt Angle we've never seen before at Bound for Glory. His message to Vince is watch what I do. If you think you saw Kurt Angle while I was there, you haven't seen nothing yet.
Cool.
Yeah, all the WWE stuff, all the like addressing the WWE departure stuff, just don't do it. Just make him Kurt Angle, man. You don't need any of this shit.
It's very stupid.
Our main event, Christian versus Samoa Joe go to a no contest in a non-sanctioned ladder fight.
Well, it doesn't go to anything. It's not a match. The fight just ends.
Sure. It's very funny to watch this match, fake match, whatever you want to call it, but these boys are trying so hard in this match.
They really put on like a lot of effort for this. To the point where I was like, guys, what are you doing? Don't you know what this show is?
Yeah, when you see what every other match on this show is in comparison to this, you're like, guys, why are you taking like crazy ladder bumps? What are you doing?
It's because these two care too much.
Yeah. Oh, earlier in the show, I guess we should mention it here because we are doing the Monsters Ball stuff. There was a Ron Killings and Lance Hoyt versus Diamonds in the Rough match. We're including this in Monsters Ball because we go backstage immediately when the match starts, because again, that happens in every match now.
Of course.
Where Raven is shouting at Runt and Abyss about how Joe doesn't respect the hardcore guys and then calls Joe a coconut eater.
Crazy.
This goes nowhere. This feels like they're like striking an alliance against Joe, but they immediately start fighting after this.
They kind of do like everyone knows they have to beat Joe in the actual match. There's like a touch of like Joe's the biggest threat here.
But there's like 2 more segments involving all these guys before the pay-per-view, and they all just fight.
Yeah, but like you can believe that.
But in this match, yes, Lance Hoyt and Ron Killings versus the Diamonds in the Rough. Tell me all your opinions about this match, Liam. Actually, I think you should have many takes about this wrestling contest.
The Diamonds in the Rough are breaking up.
That's a post-match. No, tell me about the match.
Oh boy, I have so much to say. Truth, he's so athletic. And he does some athletic things. Bounces around.
You can get with this and you can get with that.
Exactly. Lance Hoyt allegedly was there.
Yes.
I don't remember him being there. I just remember Ron Killings and Elix Skipper, and that's it.
These boys are a tag team now, by the way. Lance Hoyt and Ron Killings.
I think that's a fine spot for them. Probably a little below Ron Killings, but he never gets anything anyway, so what's the point of, like, pretending?
That is true. It's like, yeah, it hasn't happened yet. Why pretend it's going to happen now?
You can't say it's, like, below Ron Killings' stature, because, like, he has nothing.
And he's also been a tag team guy for 3 years.
So, yeah.
Truth floats over in the corner, pin Skipper. Simon Diamond shouts at his boys and throws his jacket at him, so they're basically doing the same angle the Naturals are doing with Shane Douglas, but listen, don't think about it. Skipper goes to react to this, but David Young stops him. Ron then gives Skipper a hug and a handshake, and this is the last time we see David Young in TNA television until Slammiversary 2022.
David Young is still a bitch about it, too. He's like, this is your fault, Elix Skipper.
And then we never see David Young again.
Well, we will, and I'll give him his remember when in 2022.
You're gonna wait till 2022?
Yep.
You're gonna wait till he's in the reverse battle royal at Slammiversary 2022 to give him his due.
I will wait till his last appearance.
All right. So, yeah, back to the Joe and Christian ladder match. Joe hits an elbow suicida onto the ladder onto Christian. Joe punts the ladder into Christian's groin. Christian hits a reverse DDT off the ladder. Joe sentons the ladder onto Christian. And that was the point where I was just like, these guys are working so hard. Why are they working this hard?
Why are you doing this?
Joe hits a big kick while Christian is on the ladder, follows the muscle buster. Joe goes to climb the ladder, but Abyss emerges. Black Hole slams Joe. Abyss goes to climb, but Raven and Runt powerbomb him off the ladder. They then fight, which means their alliance goes nowhere. Runt hits a crossbody off the ladder to the floor onto Raven and Abyss. Christian pulls down the belt, but Joe cuts him off and they brawl for it. Rhino pushes the ladder over, taking out Christian, and as Rhino and Joe go nose to nose, Rhino gores Christian. Joe poses with the belt, and I guess the result is technically a no contest.
You'll have to see... well, it's nothing. Again, it's not a match.
Non-sanctioned ladder fight ended in nothing.
Yep. Sometimes a fight just disperses.
It's true. Jim Cornette just like, go home. Let's go home. Stop it. Yeah, easily the best quote-unquote match on TV this month. Boys were trying way too hard.
Yeah. These two, they care too much. They haven't beaten the care out of them yet.
The October 19th Impact opens with Mike Tenay. He announces the TNA management has made a decision. He has a bunch of papers. Samoa Joe must return the NWA title by the end of the show, or he'll be removed from the TNA roster, effective immediately.
He should have done that. Like that. He should have done that week 2.
Not waited a month.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he was like, Mitchell will do it. I have faith in Mitchell. I don't need this. And then Mitchell didn't do it, so he needed to take the extra step.
It's important to note, like, when Jarrett said that he's not going to do it, like, he's not going to, like, try anymore, he didn't.
That's true.
He had ample opportunity to run up a ladder during that.
He took the week off.
Good for him, he deserves it.
Abyss, Runt, and Raven open the show by brawling out of the tunnel as the Pyro and Ballyhoo is going off. Runt gets crotched in the post. Abyss drops Raven with a Black Hole Slam. And then Jake Roberts emerges from the tunnel with his large sack.
And you're like, why?
Jake Roberts is here. Making his TNA debut. Jake the Snake Roberts.
It's so, like, abnormal.
He laughs and reveals his snake. Abyss takes a tremendous bump at the mere sight of the snake and like, cowers in terror.
I guess we have confirmed Abyss's second fear.
Yes, barbed wire, which he did get over, and now snakes.
They should wrap the ring in snakes. No rope snake match.
That would actually be sick. Snake massacre.
All of the snakes are tied together and make up the ropes.
Yeah, if you run the ropes, you're running against snakes. The snakes in the back match.
Peter will have a problem with this.
Listen, they can get over it. We're post-woke.
We are post-woke.
Runt wants him to put the snake back in the bag. Jake DDTs him instead as the snake slithers about. Jake then grabs a microphone. Jake announces that he was asked to be the referee for the Monsters Ball match, but he's worn those stripes before in prison. So he won't be the referee, but he will be the guide that takes them to the labyrinth of their minds.
Which by that he means he will be the referee.
Yes, he does end up just being the referee. Even Dave Penzer announces him as the special referee.
Yeah. It's more of a ceremonial position, you know? The guide that takes them to the labyrinth of their minds.
Yes, that is a famous position in wrestling. I don't want cinema, I want labyrinth of mind guides.
It's true. It's post-cinema.
So you might see this Jake Roberts promo and think it was edited like crazy.
I did think there was something off about it, but I thought that might have just been Jake Roberts.
A bit of both, because it turns out, according to Dave, he ended up talking for like 9 minutes.
Hell yeah.
It was only meant to be 2 minutes, and they cut it down to like 30 seconds.
And that's what they got it from it.
That's what they got. So yeah, Jake was apparently a little bit of a mess. The segment was a bit of a train wreck.
What?
His throat was so dry you could barely hear, so they had to like punch up the audio in post.
I don't believe any of this for a second.
He apparently thought he was doing a second angle of the tapings, and when the second hour taping was over and he didn't do it, he panicked thinking he missed a segment.
No, he cares.
But yeah, Jake Roberts, this is TNA debut, and it's exactly what you would expect out of Jake Roberts' TNA debut in 2006.
You'd be kind of disappointed to have anything less than this, to be fair.
If he came out and was coherent and normal, you'd be like, oh, well, good for him, I guess.
You're like, what? You're like, why?
A limo arrives. Kurt Angle emerges. He says it's real. It's damn real.
My favorite thing about it is JB goes up to the limo and like, this must be Samoa Joe. It's like, you think any part of Samoa Joe is arriving in a limo?
Famous limo traveler Samoa Joe is here at the show tonight.
And so I was like, I was going to be like thoroughly shocked if Samoa Joe walked out of that.
JB is just too used to everybody arriving via limo.
Apparently so.
BG sits down with Mike Tenay to explain his blow-up at Kip James last week.
Yeah, please explain this to us.
BG talks about how he knows Jeff Jarrett, the man. Jarrett took him in. BG screwed up and lived with the Jarrett's family for 6 months. Says there's a man behind Jarrett and a reason for his actions.
Shut the fuck up.
I don't understand why you do this before he loses the title.
Because at this point you just think BG James is going to go heel.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Because, like, you built Jeff Jarrett up as the greatest evil in the world for 4 fucking years. And Sting is finally going to be the guy that finally takes him down off his perch. And, like, in the 2 weeks before the go-home, you have a guy being like, actually, guys, he's misunderstood.
To be fair, I don't think anyone gives a shit about what BG James thinks of Jeff Jarrett. I don't think it's taking away from the great evil.
Yeah, it's just a weird choice. I get why they're doing it, because they want to lay the seeds for the babyface turn that is to come after Bound for Glory. But yeah, it's just like, do it after Bound for Glory, guys. We get another spooky Sting video. He is the Alpha. He is the Omega.
He is the Takeshita. He is the Omega.
Mike Tenay, he's in the ring with Earl Hebner. They're like, we need the title back right now. Here are the papers that say if you don't give it back to us, you're fired. That felt like a weird contrived prop for Joe to just rip something up, by the way, but still. Joe comes out. The crowd chants, keep the title at Joe. He analyzes the papers. Joe rips up the documents as, for the first time in TNA history, Kurt Angle's music hits.
It is, like, I do love that, like, people kind of like, what the fuck's happening? They're like, oh shit!
Yeah, it was funny. Even at Bound for Glory, when Kurt comes out for the cornet segment, they didn't actually recognize his music yet. So even then, it still took him walking through the curtain for them to be, oh fuck, it's Kurt. But yeah, there is the moment of like, what's this song? Oh fuck, it's Kurt. Kurt Angle comes up the ramp elevator, draped in the American flag as the pyro hits. Mike Tenay rejoins commentary. Joe lays the title between them. Tenay says he's daring Angle to cross the line, which I think is the first time that's actually like said on this show as like a thing that becomes a catchphrase.
Comes the catchphrase.
They go nose to nose before Angle headbutts Samoa Joe and hits the Olympic Slam. This is where Tenay goes into overdrive. He's like, can you believe it? Kurt Angle's in the Impact Zone. His call of like Olympic Slam by Angle on Samoa Joe. All fucking timer. Tenay's so good here.
Everything's going fucking nuts.
Building going absolutely crazy. Angle poses with the NWA title, but a bleeding Samoa Joe rises behind him like a fucking anime villain. Like, hits him with an enziguri. They brawl as Jarrett sneaks in to grab the title back. Jarrett looks longingly at the belt, leaves. They replay the headbutt as security and officials try to separate Angle and Joe as we go off the air. But yeah, the headbutt is like one of the iconic moments. Just because Joe is busted open hard way, and then the Joe rise spot and the shot of Joe bleeding behind him, it's all so fucking good.
It's one of the all-timer, like maybe the best TNA angle.
I think it is.
And I think the thing that like sets it apart from most other debuts and stuff is that like Joe doesn't look weak here, and it doesn't make Kurt worse that Joe doesn't look weak here. Like they somehow. And I guess that is kind of hard to do in wrestling, is like they made them both feel equally as important during the Kurt Angle debut, which is like crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't just Kurt Angle eating up Joe after Joe was the guy in TNA for 18 months. No, Liam, you're becoming Russo filled.
Well, until he proves me wrong.
He has booked a month of good, crazy television.
It's true.
But yeah, everything about this segment is awesome. Mike Tenay is awesome. Angle is awesome. Joe is awesome. Even Jarrett, like, sneaking in to just get the belt in the slimiest way imaginable while these two killers are looking to kill each other.
A great payoff to the whole thing as well. Like, the whole months of story, like it's a great payoff that, like, Jarrett just sneaks in like a fucking snake and just gets it. Like, the living cockroach that he is.
And then looks at the belt with a little bit of, like, is this even worth it? Yeah, amazing go home segment for a match that's not happening for a month, but that's fine. It is not the end of the television show though, Liam.
Do you remember me?
As we end the show with a Chris Jericho jump scare as the Fozzy song Enemy hypes the pay-per-view with a bunch of pay-per-view matches being run down.
Do you know what my favorite part of that song is?
What?
That in the music video, there's a guy that looks like a really hot version of Tony Khan.
Okay, I did not notice this.
If you check the notes.
I like that. Oh my god, it is Tony Khan.
It's like a really hot Tony Khan.
Maybe it is, but like, who's to say Tony wasn't a much more handsome? Well, not that he is not a handsome man, but
he's just a jacked man.
Yeah, maybe this was.
He's
Tony
like
back
if
in 2006.
Superman was Tony Khan.
Yeah. Damn, Jericho going to AEW was like destined.
I know, right?
But yeah, this is Chris Jericho's only appearance on TNA Impact.
For now.
That is true. He could technically have one further down the line from now.
We're leaking it right here.
Chris Jericho is going to debut on TNA in 2027.
It is a contract year for Chris Jericho.
Yeah, the actually Enemy as a song worked really well for the Rhino Christian feud.
I like Enemy.
It's not the worst Chris Jericho song.
No. There's some like Fuzzy is just straight up like butt rock. But like some of it's some good butt rock.
Judas is a good song.
I like Live Wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could name the Jericho songs that aren't related to wrestling?
I can name Live Wire.
You're a big Jericho fan. I think that's real Fozzy fandom.
Yeah, I'm a Foz head.
Sure. Famously. Dave Sahadi and Kevin Sullivan helped produce this video, by the way, along with the music video. Dave was actually like, I've seen that music video before, not realizing they would splice in TNA highlights because of fucking course they would. He thought they were just going to close the show with the Chris Jericho Fozzy music video.
I wonder how many people like watch this and are like, fucking Jericho's jumping.
Especially because like you have Angle's debut with a big moment, and then the next thing you see is Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy.
I was listening to Enemy in the background while you were describing the Angle Joe segment. And it was perfect.
Okay. You just happened to
It was
listen to
cinema.
that multiple times.
They're just like, why just then?
No, I just assume you have Chris Jericho's Enemy on all time at all times.
It's
Just-
constantly playing in my brain, to be fair.
Do you remember me?
Isn't the plot of that like music video that like there's a guy trying to kill himself?
Is
Like
it?
that jacked Tony Khan is trying to like climb to the top of a building to jump off.
And then he finds Chris Jericho and Fozzy there and realizes life is worth living.
Yeah, I think so. Let me find out.
It is such a funny back-to-back segments of like you get that Angle Joe segment and then you get the Jericho Fozzy video. It's like, what the hell's going on this show all of a
He
sudden?
climbs up and sees a woman making out with someone, presumably his enemy. And then then he climbs on top of the roof and jumps off. Fucking kills himself.
So yeah, the Fozzy song did not cause him to save his life.
I mean, in my lowest moments, would Fozzy save me?
Or make you more likely to jump.
Yeah.
Bound for Glory, October 22nd, 2006.
Anime.
From the CompuWare Sports Arena in front of 3,400 people, Dave has it as. There's some reports that it might be closer to, like, TNA were claiming between 4,500, but that might be with comps or just a made-up number. Who knows?
You can never quite tell.
The show is also sponsored by Mortal Kombat Armageddon.
Fucking awesome.
How did you feel? This is for TNA's first arena show since 2002, since like the very early Nashville days. It's the first time they've run an arena since like July 2002.
I like that it's in a different building. I wish like all the pay-per-views were in different buildings. But I kind of hate this one.
You don't like the CompuWare Sports Arena?
I kind of think it looks small and shitty.
It does look like an airline hangar.
And it just like this should be hosting a rave, you know, not a fucking TNA pay-per-view.
It is a hockey arena.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one.
How did you feel about like the general setup? Because obviously this is the
I did like the aesthetic and like the industrial feel of it all. I thought that was good, but yeah, I'm not a fan of the actual building. I don't like that the roof is so low and you can see all like the stuff in the top of the building.
the like scaffolding and support bars and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
By the way, Enemy, the music video,
Yeah,
800,000 views.
not great.
Fozzy Judas, you gonna have a guess on how many views?
I would say 25 million.
70 million.
Oh, that's even much better than you even expected. And I thought I was giving a high estimate there.
Yeah,
Needed Enemy on TNA television more. That would have solved your problem.
needed Judas.
Raven did say after his match that it's the type of crowd you'd go out and work for if you even had a broken arm. So it was a hot crowd in Detroit.
It was a hot crowd, and it was a big crowd.
Sorry, Plymouth, Michigan, not Detroit.
Come on.
JB was outside Joe's locker room. Jake Roberts walks up.
And you go, oh no.
Jake starts talking about how sometimes you love your snake and then it grows. Because he's talking about his penis.
I get it. He does do that a lot.
Talk about his penis?
Yeah.
He talks about how he'll be the ringside enforcer for Monsters Ball.
Once again, he's not.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not a referee. I don't want to be a referee. I'll be like the enforcer, probably.
But he's a ref.
That does take us to Monsters Ball. Samoa Joe defeats Abyss, Brother Runt, and Raven in a Monsters Ball match with Jake Roberts as the special guide, is what he wants to call it.
to the labyrinth of their minds.
Even though Dave Pencer does announce him as the special referee.
Yeah, but who are you going to trust?
Raven's head is locked in a cage, like a Bloodborne character.
Despite all his rage, Raven's head is still in a cage.
Damn. You should work for the NWA.
No.
I've turned down jobs with the NWA like 3 times.
Brag. Maybe if Baron Corbin was champ.
Abyss hurls Brother Runt into the crowd as you can hear a woman scream. Fucking scream at the top of her lungs when he does this.
It definitely wasn't for like concern over Brother Runt, and I think more that like it was gonna hit her.
Because, like, I didn't hear this when we were doing the watch long, and I was just typing the notes, and I was looking away from the screen, and I heard that scream, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? They do toss Runt straight back out, and the dude that did it high fives all his bros as he had a really good memory.
Like,
then.
so we were debating if this was a plant or if it was just like a dude that was like, I fucking hate Brother Runt for some reason. And like very quickly it became like a realization that it was just a guy who fucking hates Brother Runt because he was so excited. All his boys were gassing him up so hard that he just fucking shit canned him.
Joe wiped everybody out with a dive. Raven hits Joe with his head cage, and then Joe fell through a table off.
Despite all my rage, I'm hitting Joe with my head cage.
Abyss chokeslams Runt off the stage onto a platform below.
Despite all my rage, I am choke slamming Runt off the stage.
No! Abyss elbow drops Runt off the stage, but the camera misses it, focusing on a Jake Roberts reaction.
I could do it again, but I feel like I shouldn't.
You hit the rule of threes, you see.
Yeah.
Those were like cardboard boxes, and they actually had very little give.
Yeah, it didn't look like they had much fucking give.
Yeah, because Runt didn't break them, and an Abyss elbow drop didn't really break them, so they must have been very sturdy cardboard boxes. Raven throws Joe off the stage again through a second table. Jake is going to unleash his snake, but then Raven jumps him, a man of decency. Joe sentons Abyss face first onto thumbtacks.
Which is a fun bump.
Crazy for this dopey mid-card monsters ball to take a face first.
That's bound for glory, baby.
Senton thumbtack bump. Wild man. I love you, Abyss.
It's bound for freaking glory.
Jake comes back, drops Raven with a DDT. Joe falls with the Muscle Buster for the win. And then Jake drops his snake on Raven after the match.
It's like a pretty good match. It's not like amazing.
It's silly, like, hardcore spectacle. It's nowhere near as good as the Monsters Ball match on last year's Bound for Glory, but it's silly, hardcore spectacle. I do feel like they tried an extra level, because I think they probably felt they had to live up to that match last year, and they failed, but they did, I think, kind of try. And Jake Roberts there is funny.
Jake Roberts is funny. That is the best review possible. Jake Roberts talking about his cock and just being a weird freak.
Jim Cornette comes to the ring. His voice is gone. He's sick, but he says he would have been in intensive care before he missed this show. Cornette says tonight is not the time and place for Angle and Joe to settle their problems. I say, why not? That would be sick. Cornette announces if Joe interferes in the world title match, he'll be removed from the TNA roster. A lot of threats of firing Samoa Joe lately.
To be fair, I think it's about the only thing that fucking works.
Angle's music hits. The crowd still don't know Angle's music well enough to react to it, but when they see him, they do react. Kurt says TNA is the best, screw the rest. It says Jarrett versus Sting will be one of the greatest main event matches ever, and he'll call it down the middle. But then he turns to Cornette and says, I don't need a buffer between me and Samoa Joe. Joe comes out, they brawl, security immediately separates them. They break off a couple of times as they scream furiously at each other.
It's very weird to see an Angle on pay-per-view for TNA. You don't get a ton of, like, big, like, you know, we're going to have a talkie segment in the middle of a TNA pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The last one that immediately comes to mind is the Christian debut, and that was nearly a year ago at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of a rare occurrence.
But I guess they probably felt the need to do some Angle Joe development on this show after how hot the TV angle was. And to get old Jim on the show.
Jim, who is still around.
And has not... There is some stuff about how he was, like, bad-mouthing Russo at, like, the Fan Fest.
As he fucking should, to be fair.
But yeah, Jim hangs on for a good while with Russo around, so...
They managed to keep it separate for a minute.
And then, main event. Sting defeats Jeff Jarrett in a title versus career match for the NWA World title with Kurt Angle as special enforcer.
Sting's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly... Like, it's not... It feels big, but it doesn't live up to feeling big. It just, like there's... The surrounding aura of the match feels big league, but, like, the match doesn't really have any sort of, like, epic feel to it to match that.
No.
Like, the best thing about it is, like, seeing Sting back.
And, like, it does for, like, the last, I think, 15 seconds. Like, the finish of the match is fucking electric. And then the rest of the match, as you said, has a big atmosphere, but then it's just kind of guys doing moves that nobody really cares about. So Sting comes out with a new look. He has a very fancy sparkly robe. He has, like, classic red and black tights, red boots, no singlet, the red and black and white face paint, in very good shape.
It's interesting that, like, this is the look that ends up in the game.
Yeah, that is
Not
fun.
exactly like these tights, but, like, this era with, like, the tights and no singlet and the color in the paint.
Like Sting would have this look for a month of his TNA career, and it is the one that ends up immortalized in the game. The early goings of this match is Jarrett dominating Sting. Jarrett wins every early exchange as Sting powders out. Sting eventually hits a powerbomb, runs wild a little. We get classic brawling at ringside as Sting hits a suplex on the ramp. Angle goes face to face with both Jarrett and Sting at various points, stops them from using a chair. Sting sidesteps a Jarrett charge as Jarrett nails Angle. Jarrett DDT Sting on the ramp and takes over. They collide with a crossbody at the same time. Rudy Charles is about to count both of them out for 10 when Angle just drops him with an Angle slam and takes over as referee. Or sorry, Olympic slam. Don't sue me, WWE. WWE, don't sue me, please.
They're waiting.
Sting kicks out of a stroke to very little reaction.
Yeah.
Jarrett does the one arm in the air on a tombstone.
He's a loud one. As a treat.
Jarrett goes for submission attempts with a figure four and an ankle lock. Sting grabs his bat, but Angle stops him. Jarrett then hits Sting with the guitar. Sting no-sells it, fires up, locks in the Scorpion Deathlock, wins the NWA title. Sting celebrates. Jarrett looks sad.
It's like when he gets hit with that guitar, you're like, yeah, we're finally... Oh, he's the one. He's won. He won the belt.
And the crowd go fucking crazy when he no-sells it. It's like the time that the match comes alive for those 15 seconds, or it's like guitar shot, Sting no-sell. Don West calls it in my favorite way imaginable, where he just forgets words. He like his call is like Sting dabba doo da.
Sting dabba doo da.
He's like so excited that he just loses the capacity to form words and just makes noises. It's the best. And Sting just locks into the Deathlock and wins. Like, the crowd go fucking crazy the second he no-sells that, and the finish is really good. But as you said, the rest of the match is kind of just there.
Yeah, I'm not exactly, like, infatuated with this match.
Yeah, like, Sting bell to bell in TNA, he's shaky. Like, he's not, like... He has good matches, and very rarely has, like, flat-out bad matches. But a lot of the time, it's just kind of this, where you're kind of left being like, yep, that was a Sting match.
We're not, like, quite in the era of, like, big Sting great matches in TNA yet.
No. Like, the Bound for Glory main event next year, which is him and Kurt, is a much better match, if memory serves. I haven't watched it in a while.
Well, like, even, like, you know, eventually when we get to, like, the Jeff Hardys and the Aries and the stuff like that. It's just a better crew, I guess. It's funny because he's older, but I feel like he has better matches.
And famously bad matches would maybe one of them.
Yeah, okay. You know, when he comes back and he has, like, his, like, all-time run.
So, Jeff Jarrett is taking about 8 weeks off from TV. The Observer says 4 months. It ends up being closer to... Actually, no, 4 months is about right. 4 to 5 months. Then he'll be introduced as a babyface. There had been talk of incorporating Jarrett's real-life issues into the storyline where he turns babyface. Jarrett's wife, Jill, who was diagnosed with breast cancer about 8 years ago, was originally treated with traditional radiation and chemotherapy. The cancer went into remission and returned last year. The idea was to use an on-air storyline to garner sympathy for Jarrett, but perhaps explaining that a family member had cancer without getting too specific or making up a family member that doesn't exist, just to keep real life and storyline separate enough to not get too close for comfort. So that is the Jarrett babyface turn coming up.
We will see how that goes.
Sting got lost a few times during his match with Jeff Jarrett, which is not unusual for him, apparently. Back when he was in a 4-way with Scott Steiner this summer, he missed enough spots that Steiner confronted him backstage afterward. Apparently, the always diplomatic Steiner began, "What the fuck happened out there?" Sting had no idea he was off and wrote it off as having a bad memory.
Okay. Come on, guys.
From the Wrestling Observer, Sting showed up and had no idea Angle was going to be part of his match. He didn't complain. He just didn't know. Well, part of the blame can go to the company for a lack of communication. Others are saying it showed a lack of professionalism on his part to be so unaware of the industry and the job that is paying him so much money.
Hey, he's off getting fucking gassed up for 4 weeks.
He's not watching Impact. Come on.
He's fucking talking about Jesus and injecting steroids into his ass.
He's not watching Vince Russo booked television.
He had to do that for enough of his goddamn life.
The funny story to some was that Sting forgot to bring his white face paint with him. When he realized it, TNA had people go all over to stores and couldn't find any white face paint anywhere. The day ended up being saved as during the show, a TNA official found an ICP fan in the stands with his face painted. They asked if they could borrow his face paint, which he had in his car, so about 1 hour before Sting's match, a fan went to his car to give TNA officials his white face paint.
That's crazy.
ICP saving the day as usual.
That's crazy. Sting, what's happening with your brain?
Not a good... It's too Jesus. His brain is Jesus all the time, not face paint.
He took up all of his memory with, like, fucking Bible verses.
Yeah, he can't remember his spots. He can't remember his paint.
How did this man, like, get better?
By getting older? I don't know. How does that make sense?
I don't know.
Sting was one of the few people let in on the Angle signing. Sting was in Nashville.
Well, to be fair, he did forget the next day.
They knew they could tell him because he wouldn't leak it, because he wouldn't remember. Sting was in Nashville the day Angle was in town for the vignettes, and Dixie Carter said she had a surprise for him. Dave Hawk came in at first, and Sting didn't understand. And then Angle came in, and Sting freaked out.
I was gonna think, like, Sting and Angle probably have never even met.
Yeah, that probably would have been the first time. Well, Sting might have been, like, backstage once or twice, I guess. Certainly not, like, pals or buddies.
He's probably more like, holy shit, someone's getting paid more than me.
Yeah, where's my paper? He probably has like a matching clause in his contract, and he immediately called his agent. Angle's wife Karen went into labor the day before Bound for Glory, and he missed the fan fest. There were about 600 people at the fan fest the day before, which was considered really good. They were all given something that enabled them to get into the arena at 1 p.m. the day of the pay-per-view for a personal meet and greet with Angle, since he was the biggest star advertised. Karen, who was expecting a boy, had not given birth at press time when this Observer was released shortly after Bound for Glory.
Damn, she's in labor for like days.
Yeah, and that is our NWA World Title match. A lot of angles, a lot of stories.
Ha, I don't know, one angle.
God damn it.
Cut.
But yeah, Sting is world champ. You happy to see Sting as world champ?
Yes. I'm interested to see what an Impact run looks like without Jarrett.
We will not have Jarrett on TV until the build up to Lockdown. The Lockdown Go Home show, I think, is when Jarrett comes back, which is in April. So we do have a good, 6 months without Jarrett.
We're gonna have, oh my god, they really give, 6 months of, Russo unchecked. The one guy there that can check him is busy.
He's not booking his own angles anymore, so...
I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what I guess since he's not booking his own shit, he may be a little more locked into the rest of the show. And you're like, what does that 50-50 split on someone who isn't worried about his own spot look like?
Yeah, he doesn't have to bend over backwards to contrive reasons for why he should be doing well in main events and book the show around that.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting little run here.
We will round out the rest of the Rhino Christian stuff. So back to the September 28th Impact, we get a recap of Rhino versus Christian at No Surrender. We then get a Rhino at the press conference. The doctors have advised him not to wrestle for 12 weeks, but he can't do that.
He's like, fuck that, concussions aren't even real.
No brains in wrestling. I'm fucking Katsuyori Shibata.
Sting can't remember what he did yesterday, but yeah.
He wants an 8-mile street fight against Christian at Bound for Glory. This was bizarre because it was cut together. Rhino clearly talked for at least 2 minutes, and it was cut down to 30 seconds with 3 hard edits. It's man, the editing on the show is crazy now. During a Chris Sabin, Jay Lethal, and Sanjay Dutt versus Alex Shelley, Johnny Devine, and Senshi match, shock of all shocks, Christian joins commentary within the first minute of it.
What do you mean?
We can't have wrestling on the show, Liam. We gotta have angles.
He's also there for a match that has nothing to do with him.
And he is gone before the end of the match. He's literally just here to have an angle.
But let's talk about his t-shirt.
He is wearing a sweet Ed Hardy t-shirt.
Shout out to Ed Hardy. As we've mentioned, a brand that is bafflingly back.
Is it back?
Ed Hardy is back.
Properly back?
Not in a 90s fashion is real big at the moment. And with that has come a renewal of people buying vintage Ed Hardy shit.
If we get the return of Affliction and Tap Out, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I think kinda. Affliction, maybe. Ed Hardy, yes. Tap Out, probably not.
Don't WWE own Tap Out?
I don't know.
I think they bought Tap Out. Maybe I'm
Sounds
imagining that.
realistic to me.
But yeah. Do you have an Ed Hardy shirt?
I hate it. I will not do it.
You're never gonna wear an Ed Hardy shirt?
No. I don't like that. But it is certainly popular here. Everyone's just dressing like 90s skaters now.
That's cool, I guess. There are worse aesthetics you could cling on to.
It's just baggy jeans, 90s washed shirts, and then jackets is the look of fashion in Melbourne.
Christian accepts Rhino's challenge for the 8-mile street fight at Bound for Glory. He says he wishes Rhino was here right now so he could confront him to his face. Rhino appears, but then security immediately intervenes. As we come back, Christian is talking about how lucky Rhino is that security is holding him back.
I love this little pissant Christian shit.
It's real straightforward, simple heel stuff, but it works every time.
I know, like, it's the most basic shit, but there's a reason it's been around the entire history of wrestling, you know, like, it just hits.
Yeah, you don't have to complicate it. It could just be the heel being like, you're so lucky security is holding you back, then he breaks off from security, and then he runs away like a coward.
Like, he gets, like, a cheap shot in, and then, like, runs away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rhino breaks free of security, charges Christian bails, so he is gone for the rest of this match. We'll talk about the rest of this match when we're talking about the X Division. The October 5th Impact, we have a feature on Rhino talking about his tough past. It was a war then and a war today. Some men from the streets attest to how tough and cool Rhino is, as this is set to an instrumental version of Lose Yourself by Eminem. He'll show Christian a nightmare he'll never forget at Bound for Glory.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really love this, but, like, I got it.
Yeah, it's a simple, like, Rhino is a tough man, every man on the street. Christian is like a
I think I've just had too many Rhino is the Punisher vignettes now.
There is a bunch of stuff, as we mentioned, where Rhino and Christian are involved back and forth with various world title theft angles.
Mm-hmm.
And then go home show, we have Christian Cage versus Norman Smiley in an Orlando street fight.
This might be, like, legitimately my favorite match.
It's like a minute long.
I know, but it's just silly and stupid. And I love him hitting fucking Norman with the chair, but Norman's wearing the fucking football helmet, no sells it, but then he just takes it off and fucking romps him with it.
Christian comes to the ring with 2 chairs. Norman is, as you mentioned, in his, like, WCW hardcore gear, so, like, football helmets, pads.
A reference I definitely get.
Yeah, you know Screaming Norman Smiley from WCW?
All I know of him is the hardcore stuff.
Which is all there is really to know about
And that he
Norman
fucks
Smiley.
in the ass.
Yeah, he does love wiggling into your bum.
Somehow that was more lewd than what I said.
A lot of talks about snakes and wiggling in this month of TNA. We explain at one point, TNA explains that Christian posted an open contract for an Orlando street fight, which felt like TNA retroactively trying to explain why this random street fight was happening on TV.
Rhino should have answered that.
That felt like Mike Tenay trying, like on commentary after this was taped, being like, "Why the fuck is this street fight happening?"
Yeah, I mean it's an easy one. He picked an easy opponent to have a street fight with to, like, test it out.
Look tough and cool, yeah. Christian hits Norman with the chair in the hat, but the helmet protects him, so he does a dance.
It's so good.
Norman goes for the wiggle, but Christian low blows him, hits the unprettier. Christian hits a concerto for the win. He pulls out a straitjacket and goes to tie it on Norman. Shark Boy makes the save, but Christian brains him with the football helmet. A lot of concussions this month.
A lot of Shark Boy verse this month.
Shark Boy goes to put the jacket on Christian goes to put the jacket on Shark Boy.
Shark Boy puts it on himself.
Yeah, he puts himself in a straitjacket because he's crazy like that. He's a madman.
You know.
Christian puts the jacket on Shark Boy, but Rhino makes the save, which does take us to Bound for Glory. JB has Christian. Christian talks about how everybody talks about Rhino as just like them. He's an everyman. But where I come from, all those people are loser and bums. If he thought the concussion was bad after tonight, he's not going to be invited home for dinner at the Rhino's house anymore. Then comments that his aunt's cooking sucked. A local sports reference, catchphrase.
Hell yeah.
8 Mile street fight. Christian Cage defeats Rhino.
Dun 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 dun.
You had a lot of issues with the 8 Mile road signs.
Yeah, okay, so you know immediately this is, like, a gimmick sign because it's the size of them.
Mm.
And, like, unless Americans simply cannot see anything ever, like, this is not real. This cannot be real.
It was a very comically large road sign.
It was insane.
I'm going to go hunting around Detroit to try and find a sign this size. If you live in Detroit, I want you to take pictures of the 8 Mile road sign and send it to us. On Twitter, at TNA History Pod. All our Detroit listeners, I know you're out there. Let us know how big those signs are and whether Liam is right or wrong.
It simply cannot be true.
Rhino enters through the crowd and then goes backstage to meet Christian.
I did like Rhino's crowd entrance.
Because he's a man of the people, Liam.
You know who had a really cool crowd entrance?
Who?
Recently? The AEW show that had Hobbs coming through the crowd looked sick. Because there was, like, some, like, was it the Vegas taping, I think?
I don't remember which one it was.
But, like, yeah, he went straight through and it looked awesome. It was all, like, bright and, like, looked like a cool, unique building. These are the kind of buildings I would have honestly loved TNA to run for their pay-per-views.
As opposed to, like, the same building that looks like a worse version of a WWE show.
No, I mean, I'm talking about now. Like, in 2006.
That's what I mean. Because, like, the CompuWare B Arena is just, like, a more run-down version of, like, a building WWE would run.
I think it's a building. Looks like a building ROH would run.
Oh, it's like that Terminal 6 or whatever, Terminal 5.
Yeah, like it just looks like ass. Like it just looks like a big shed. Like I would like these like weird sort. I mean, I get it. Like these are like legitimately like the hardest kind of buildings to find. Like these 2,000 to 4,000 seaters or whatever.
Yeah, the mid-range ones.
It's very easy to go, this is the kind of buildings AEW should be running. And then you're like, well, there's not a lot of them, you know? It's hard to find them.
It is kind of crazy how literally every single city in America has a 15,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
All of
Sports.
them. Rhino goes to meet Christian backstage. They brawl in front of some cars. They don't really do much with the cars, but they brawl in front of them.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to do something really cool and like do like a fucking Def Jam Vendetta like fight. But they just, nope.
And they brawl back toward the building onto a Zamboni, which is the thing they use to clean the ice, as Rhino drives them. That was another thing of like, it seemed like a thing that was going to be really cool, but then Rhino drove like 4 feet and getting caught out.
You should have driven over him.
They then brawled on top of the Zamboni and Rhino punched him off of it. They had a bunch of like street lamps set up at ringside, plus an 8 Mile Road street sign. Christian cuts off Rhino's gore tent with a chair shot. Some crowd brawling. Christian waffled Rhino with the road sign, which drew blood from Rhino. Christian locked Rhino in a straitjacket as the crowd start chanting, use the table, regarding the 2 tables now set up around the ring. And I was like side-eyeing them, being like, don't you dare. It's the precursor to the worst chant in wrestling.
I hate it.
It was born here in Detroit. Christian missed a concerto on a straitjacketed Rhino, and Andrew Thomas then helped free Rhino from the straitjacket, which the crowd booed.
Which is bullshit.
The crowd booed it.
And like they booed it so loudly that like Tenay had to justify it and be like, well, he has to let him fight, you know. And I was like, no, he doesn't. All right.
It's a street fight. He should just stand there.
He's there to count the falls and rope breaks.
Rhino did shout, take this off of me at him.
What's he gonna do? Gore you?
That's true. He is tied up. He can't do anything about it. There was some miscommunication before Rhino just pile drove Christian off the apron through a table.
It was a great power driver in the end, to be fair.
Christian put his foot in the rope as Rhino got back in to break the count. Christian sidesteps a gore, sends Rhino crashing through a table. Rhino kicks out of it unprettier. Christian then buries Rhino in rubble, wails on him with a chair before pinning him. Rhino, like a nerd, beaten in his hometown.
Yeah, but like, he's not losing. Yeah.
It's Christian. Christian's the guy that matters.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Rhino is your mid-card gatekeeper, and he can lose like this all the time. Fun plunder brawl, ultimately.
Yeah, it's fun. It's not like something I would recommend anyone has to go like catch, but like it's fine.
You would have maybe hoped it was like more of a hateful blood feud match, but it was more of like a regular plunder match, and that's all right.
I don't think this company has hateful blood feud in them at this point.
Well, we're not going to talk about it next. Actually, are we going to talk about it next? We are going to talk about it next. How about AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels against LAX?
Well, I don't think that was like hateful blood feud as much as it was like
they were stabbing each other with forks.
Yeah, Homicide does that to everyone.
But Daniels stabbed him with a fork too.
I guess it was a little hateful blood feud. But like,
they jumped AJ Styles in Mexico.
Who doesn't?
Wow.
In my head, I have like a real like high standard for what that means to me. Like, if it's not Tony Storm and Mariah May gluing fucking glass to their fists as they punch each other, like, I need that much blood.
All right.
But I get what you mean. It's funny, when I was thinking about times in, like, TNA when they, like, did have that kind of feel, I was thinking of, like, tag stuff, too.
Or Harris Storm. Harris Storm next year is, like, the big one.
Yeah.
That is, like, the most hateful blood feud blow up.
So that doesn't count.
It's not real to you.
Not yet. Don't predict the future.
Anything could happen. That does bring us over to the tag team division, starting with LAX versus Styles and Daniels for the NWA World Tag Team titles inside 6 sides of steel.
And also some bullshit.
There's always some bullshit. There's always the naturals. You always have to suffer the naturals.
It's insane.
They're coming off the back of No Surrender, in which Styles and Daniels regained the NWA World Tag Team titles versus LAX. We announce at the press conference on the first show of the month that Styles and Daniels versus LAX will be a rematch at Bound for Glory, but this time inside a steel cage. Conan sees the steel cage as a metaphor. Fences are usually designed to keep people like them out, but now it'll keep Styles and Daniels in.
That's a great line.
Yeah, you want to build a wall? Well, build a wall around them to keep them in something.
And that is the stance you firmly are behind?
I love walls. I also love ladders. Walls and ladders.
Tables, ladders, walls.
It's my favorite modern adaptation of Snakes and Ladders. It's walls and ladders. Conservatives keep building.
That sounds like a MAGA board game.
Yeah, the conservatives keep building the walls, and then the illegal immigrants bring ladders to climb the walls. This is a thing people would actually make. No!
Coming soon to Garrett's Etsy.
Yeah, we're gonna sell them on Patreon, actually.
Nope, I don't co-sign this.
Liam loves walls and ladders.
I've never said such a thing.
Liam hates Conan.
Well,
Liam's like, get out of my country. Not in my country, mate. We don't take immigrants.
that's its own problem.
October 5th Impact, we are told that we need to be shown footage of something that happened to AJ Styles in Mexico. Something brutal, something violent. We are shown that footage. AJ won a trophy on a AAA crossover show. Then Homicide and Conan confront him. They attack AJ as a dozen other guys appear out of nowhere and also jump AJ.
I love that, like LAX rolls deep in Mexico is great.
I love them chanting like, Mexico, Mexico, as they beat the shit out of AJ.
AJ, why would you take a booking there?
Hey, it was an official TNA sanctioned booking. They sent him there. They sent him to die.
He should sue them.
Conan says that's what happens when you come to Mexico. I do like the idea that AJ set foot in their territory and then they tried to kill him.
Yeah, makes sense.
LAX faced the tag team of Jeff Watson and Tyler Black.
Tyler freaking Black.
Tyler Black, Seth freaking Rollins in his only TNA appearance.
There's some, like, actual interesting Seth Rollins TNA lore, though.
Mm.
That, it was TNA, like, offering him a deal that got him his NXT spot.
Yeah.
Like, he called them and was like, hey, if you guys don't sign me right now, I'm going to TNA.
And they signed him.
Mm.
Seth Rollins as a TNA guy feels like an interesting scenario.
Would he be as big of a fail son as in ROH?
I guess like that era of TNA as well is like a weird one because it's like when was that? That was like 2014, 2013. When did he get signed? Even earlier, 2012 maybe.
That's a very good question.
He was like one of the very first guys they signed of that generation.
I think he was like post like Claudio.
I guess he was on TV with the Shield by 2013, so it had to be like 2011, 2012.
Let me have a look here. November 20. He won the champ. He signed in 2010.
That early? Jesus.
Yeah, because he was a Florida boy for a minute.
Oh yeah, he was in FCW. God, my perception of time is done.
And then he was in development for like 2.5 years.
So yeah, this would have been like him jumping to Hogan Bischoff TNA.
Which like honestly does kind of feel right.
He does feel like a Bischoff guy, doesn't he?
Because like assuming he, like same sort of career trajectory at like by 2012, like he's like sort of rolling in that like higher level, you know?
He's kind of like where Austin Aries ended up being.
Yeah.
He got killed in less than a minute here.
Yes. It was nice to see him. Like it was a you know, it's always fun when like a random like ROH guy shows up on these shows.
It is the fun thing about like TNA in general, and that nearly everybody comes through the door at some point. So like you're just like, oh, Tyler Black, isn't that fun?
Yeah. And that is always the thing that they were criticized for, though. It was like, everyone's been there and you signed like 20% of them.
Yeah, you were pushing Anarchia and Crimson when you had Tyler Black potentially coming through the door.
Yeah.
Cutter off the ropes to Black, border toss on Watson. It's over in less than a minute. Conan says they're taking the tag titles back. Conan says being put in Ultimate X was a conspiracy, but Six Sides of Steel is their world.
My world.
Woo-woo. Daniels is in the main event of that episode against Jarrett and Christian. That's the reason Daniels is teaming with Killings, because Styles was killed in Mexico.
It was Killings in Mexico.
Ah, that's the truth. October 12th Impact. JB has LAX. Styles and Daniels just jump him straight away. Hernandez is bleeding. They go to break. They come back. The brawl continues out into the Impact Zone. They brawl into the crowd.
It is funny that, like, heading into this match, I wasn't, like, particularly excited for it. Like, I was excited for it knowing the four guys in the environment that it was in.
Yeah.
But, like, the angles leading up weren't exactly, like, building my anticipation either.
You didn't love this stuff?
I liked the Mexico attack. But, like, all this stuff, like, they've kind of done everything already.
That is the problem. Like, the build to the No Surrender match was very much like blood feud killing each other, and then they just kind of did it for another month.
Yeah.
Here they brawl out to the crowd. Conan appears to turn the tide as they lock Daniels into the LAX entrance area, as Conan fumbled with the lock for ages. Styles tried to climb the door, but Homicide knocks him off as they attack Daniels as AJ watches on. So locked in a cage with LAX.
I did enjoy AJ trying to, like, jump over.
And then Go Home Show, we have an angle that's awesome, but not for this match. It's an 8-man tag team match. It's AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels teaming with the James Gang against America's Most Wanted and LAX. Daniels and Hernandez brawl into the crowd.
Latin America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, 51-50 ain't not the best. They really shouldn't get along unless they really do get along. They love Latin America.
Maybe that's the America they're talking about in America's Most Wanted.
They've never specified.
North America's Most Wanted.
Other than like their gear and cowboyness. I'm sure there's Latin American cowboys.
Yeah. That makes sense. Tejano.
Yeah, he is one of the bigger cowboys.
We see him all the time on Lucha Underground, which you can watch behind the Patreon at tnachat.com.
Hell yeah, plug. Willie Urbina throws water on Daniels, so Daniels handcuffs him to the LAX entrance gate. AJ gets the hot tag, runs wild with a reverse DDT on Homicide, Pele on Harris. Storm cuts him off with a super kick, but then Harris and Homicide argue over who gets the pin AJ. Willie is still calling the match while tied to the gate, which I did enjoy. Styles knocks Harris into Homicide, rolls up Harris for the win. This is where TNA announces that AMW will face Team 3D, the Naturals, and the James Gang in a 4-way at Bound for Glory. We'll talk about that separately, though. AMW are arguing. Conan comes in. Pie faces Gale. Gale slaps Conan. Conan 6 LAX on AMW. Gale tries to intervene, but then Hernandez throws her all the way across the ring with a fucking border toss into, like, the next county of Florida as they bury AMW in the Mexican flag, and they replay the border toss a bunch. Fucking killed her with this border toss.
Ugh. It's disgusting. I guess, like, AMW Babyface is the next area we're going?
Yeah, babyface AMW against LAX.
Now that has potential for blood.
It should.
As long as we don't gimmick it up by electrocuting a cage or some shit.
As long as we don't Russo this shit, this should be great. Yeah, the angle with the border toss on Gale, awesome. Gale took it like a champ. Apparently, like, because we posted this on Twitter and then Gale was talking about it and she was like, it was great, didn't hurt, everything was fine.
Cool. Like, Gail talked about it because of us?
Yeah, she quote tweeted, I don't actually, she did one of the annoying things of someone else did the thing where they shared the video from our account. And Gail saw that one.
Gail!
How dare she not click
You're never going to make it to the You Got to Be Kidding Me Hall of Fame with that attitude.
That's true. You have to click the thing at the end to go through to the original tweet, Gail. Come on.
She should have a talk with her social media manager.
You don't want to give the clout chasers the attention.
Just us, the cloud chasers that started it.
Hey, we watched, like, I have, like, not to go off on Twitter.
Yeah, speak on it, King.
I have no problem with anybody who's ever sharing stuff that they're watching on Twitter. I think that's really cool. When you're watching wrestling and you're like, hell yeah, look at this cool thing I saw, that's awesome. It's the best.
Unless it's New Japan, where you'll be shot to death.
Yes, TV, Asha, how do you pronounce that? Asha?
Asahi.
Asahi? There you
Asahi?
go.
Is it Asahi? Wait, I might have fucked that up with the beer. Well, you know, it's spelled Asahi.
We'll take it. They will send a ninja to your house and stab you in the gut with a
Why ninja?
Gigantic knife. I was literally about to say sword, and I started saying knife to seem less like a stereotype. Maybe I
Why that?
Listen,
Makes you think. I think they would have sent a regular hitman, personally.
You started the show comparing me to Hitler, then I produced the killer board game Walls and Ladders, and now I am maybe stereotyping Japanese people.
Gail, where the fuck is this tweet?
This was like fucking 2 months ago. This was in January.
Oh, we posted this 2 months ago?
I watched these shows first in January, buddy.
I thought you re-uploaded it.
No, I have to watch these shows again.
Oh, Gail. I guess I can go through our stuff and find it, but whatever. Should have retweeted it. What are we doing?
No, but then it would have shared the Cloud Chaser. But yes, I have no problem with people who are watching stuff and sharing the stuff they watch. The people who just, like, literally go to find stuff to share on Twitter for clout, I fucking hate them and they should die. That brings us to the pay-per-view, in which Conan does a promo before the match. He says it takes a nation of millions to hold them back and a company of racists to hold them down. They'll raise violence to a new level tonight. Conan calls Gail Kim, and this is the Conan quote. It's very important to say this is the Conan quote. Calls her an Oriental bitch, and they border tossed her right back to Korea.
Gotta be clipping that one.
No. We have returned to the early podcast bit.
No, she actually said a lot about this.
Yeah.
She had like 3 tweets about it. Oh, it was Triple H's thoughts that did it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what made me mad. Yeah.
Can we take it down?
I could delete the video.
Fuck. That's like the worst account.
Yeah, of all the ones. Fucking clout chasing engagement bait cunt.
The pitch presented by Jeff was border toss or cop killer. I picked the first. I trusted both of them, but I also cringed at the cop killer for some reason. Oh, and then she's just playing. She's happy to do stuff. She's just happy. And then she said, someone said, probably be more pissed about Hernandez being dangerous. And Gail said, he wasn't. And then the guy said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I love when people back down like that.
Oh, yeah. And then Hernandez talked about it. He said, he called her a warrior. And then she said, thank you for making us baby faces. Spoilers, Gail. And then, wait, there's a lot of, oh god, we should have, what the fuck? There's so much about this. And then she said, remember when you asked me if I wanted to go Sanjay far?
And she did.
And then, yeah, thank you for making us baby faces.
She frankly went further than Sanjay, so we have to define it as Gale far now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say Gale was, like, desperate to do anything physical at this point. Because I'm fairly sure, like, I think around Bound for Glory is when she tried to quit this year. She tried to quit because she was like, fuck it, I've been here a year and I've done nothing. I've done shitty Serralda matches. I want to wrestle. And they start, like, letting her wrestle after this because she wanted to quit because she wouldn't wrestle.
Yeah, the whole reason she went there was to be treated with more respect.
And she just stands next to AMW all the time and occasionally Hurricane ran as Christian. LAX defeat AJ Styles and Christopher Daniel inside 6 Sides of Steel to win the NWA World Tag Team titles.
I went back and rewatched this. In the environment of that wasn't the watch along.
Yep.
This shit fucking rocks.
Great match.
I like that how chaotic it is. I like the, like, this little, like, a lot of it's really smooth, but, like, there's little bits like AJ fucking up and you're like, yeah, he should be. It's a war.
Yeah, because he does her little springboard clothesline and loses his footing.
Yeah, it's like the good kind of fucking up, like you see with like Sasha. Where you're like, it adds to like how chaotic it all feels.
Creates an element of danger.
Yeah. It's also like remarkably quick.
Because it is like, it's like 15 minutes, isn't it?
It's like, yeah, I think it is, I think it's like 20.
Is it that long?
But like, it doesn't feel that long.
It does go fast. Wikipedia has it just shy of 15.
Oh, it is 15. Okay. Maybe with entrances and stuff it was about 20.
They did have to stall for like 10 minutes to put the cage up.
Yeah. So, but like, it's kind of, it's a remarkable like chaotic mess. And you get to see some like real like classic homicide shit. Like, you're right with like the fork in like the holster in his boot.
Yep.
It's so sick. Like stuff like I don't know if he's done it before, but like bringing the coat hanger in is like feels very classic homicide, like with the bleach angles and shit. Like seeing this man turn like everyday objects into weapons of mass destruction is great.
And like spitting tequila in the face of somebody who's bleeding to like cause it to cause the wound to sting.
Also, like, Homicide is so cool. Can we just talk about how cool, like, beyond, like, what he does in the ring, which is obviously awesome, like, his gear is so sick, his moves are so sick, his whole, like, presentation is just so sick. He's so different. He kind of feels, like, a little, like, ahead of his time.
It's funny how much cooler Hernandez is just by proxy of standing next to Homicide.
I'd argue it's the only time he's cool.
Because we were watching Lucha Underground at the moment where he's like feuding with Alberto El Patron, and it's like, oh, geez, Hernandez kind of go away.
Yeah.
Whereas you watch this Hernandez, and he's like the coolest guy in the world because he's with Homicide and he's cool.
Yeah. Homicide, like, truly is just, like, that guy.
As we were saying on the watch along, this is going to be Homicide's last year in wrestling, he has said. So hopefully he does get something cool. He deserves something cool.
Yeah, I hope he gets, like, a proper retirement show, first of all, and, like, you know, I hope he gets Kingston, I hope he gets Mox, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I hope, like, AEW should do something for him. Like they should do, even if it's a Collision, if they don't want to commit a Grand Slam thing to him, because they might think that's too big a show, do a Collision for Homicide in, like, November as, like, a Homicide retirement show.
Just give him something.
Because, like, he deserves it as a guy who was, like, too much of a journeyman to ever, like, get the big flowers that he deserved. But he deserves, like, a final moment for everyone to go, that guy rocked. And he was actually, like, one of the most influential guys of the last 25 years.
He certainly does deserve something like that. Like, again, like, if you want to do it and make it, like, super, like, relevant to it all, you have ROH right there. They can do, like, literally a whole show to him on that, you know?
Yeah, the final battle. Do final battle in New York, and it's all around Homicide.
Yeah, he deserves, like, and, like, you can do him and Kingston as, like, the final match or something, like. Also, TNA should do fucking something for him, too.
Damn right, should do some LAX stuff.
Like, what are we doing?
Hall of Fame induction, Homicide Hernandez.
Yeah.
And Conan.
Yeah.
They stall for time as they build the cages as it's constructed. Don shows a World Series program that has TNA featured in it because of AJ Brzezinski. They're actually still finalizing the cage build as LAX are doing their entrance. Don brings up that Styles and Daniels have won 19 TNA titles between them.
Is that true?
With that they have 19?
That's so many titles.
Yeah, it's a lot.
For a company that's only been around like 4 years or some shit.
Because like Styles had been a 3-time world champion, like a 5-time X Division champion, like a 3-time tag champ. I think Daniels was 2X and 5 tag, something like that.
That's crazy.
They've won a lot of belts. They're TNA's boys.
You know, I recently got a holster at work for like our equipment, and I might just put a fork in there.
Just in case?
Just in case. Just like fucking Homicide would, you know?
Hernandez hurls Styles into the cage, drawing blood. Homicide jabs Daniels in the head with a fork as he bleeds too. Homicide gets a bottle of tequila and spits it into Daniels' wound. Daniels hits a top rope hip toss to turn the tide, which as a simple move off the top in a cage match, looked really good.
The Daniels is sick in this too, and like again, like it is just Homicide making everything look great, but like the bump he takes off the fucking top from the hip toss is just like
Yeah, it's like it is the perfect mix of guys. Like Styles and Daniels as like the guys for Homicide and Hernandez to be cool against. Because like Styles and Daniels are the perfect like white meat boring.
Yeah, like they are just like the good wrestlers, you know.
Like they have their own thing going on, but they're like so like personalityless in almost a good way that it makes LAX stand out even more. Daniels gets the fork and stabs Homicide with it, which causes Homicide to bleed as well. Hernandez pounces Daniels into the cage but eats a Pele. AJ holds on when Hernandez drops Daniels and Homicide in a Tower of Doom. AJ then hits a crossbody off the cage onto Hernandez in like one of the cleanest crossbodies you will ever see in your life. It looks so good. Hernandez goes for a splash off the cage, but Daniels moves and Hernandez just crashes and burns.
Yeah, which is what he's really great at, is just like that crash and burn. Like, because he is so giant.
Because we've seen in the year 2024, 2 men, like, break their legs jumping off cages. We saw it with Edge, and we saw it with Bronson Reed. And, like, I watched this Hernandez one, and it's like, that man could have easily broken his legs with this cage jump.
I also want to talk about, like, in this match, fucking AJ hits the goddamn cleanest, like, DDT that he's, like, ever done.
He does it in, like, one movement.
He doesn't plant his feet on it. He just floats through. Like, he does like a fucking sliced bread version of it.
It looks so good.
It's so crazy.
Homicide chokes out Daniels with a hanger as Conan helps too. Homicide then drops AJ on his head with a Gringo Killer to win the World Tag Team titles. LAX beat down Styles and Daniels after the match as well.
Thank God LAX are champs again.
The original plan was for AMW to do a run-in for the save, but that got cut for time.
Yeah. They did what they had to do, though, to be fair. Like they made the most of the time. I have a New Japan story break.
Oh, go.
Tanahashi has asked just 4 guys to join Hontai.
It's a big-ass stable.
Well, it's not a real stable.
But like, it's almost too big a collective.
I mean, it's just anyone. It's just everyone not in a stable.
I think Tanahashi should join just 4 guys instead.
Oh shit! What a twist.
Counter offer.
So they seem to be going all in on like Bullet Club is the real enemy, which is interesting time to do that with Bullet Club Civil War also happening at the same time.
So I guess the idea will be that Gabe will eventually choose Hontai.
Yeah, and like perhaps like the House and the War Dogs will reunite against Gabe. It's very interesting though.
That feels like the way they should
Like
go.
clearing up all of these stables has been much needed for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they're. I would just drop the Bullet Club aspect of it and just make it House of Torture and the War Dogs, but like I do appreciate we're clearing things up a bit.
LIJ next.
Yeah, well, that'll be the one, right? If that happens, you know some shit's really about to change.
You can keep the stable. Just have Shingo kill Naito. That'd be interesting.
Unfortunately,
again.
I don't think Shingo's got like a top heel guy run now. I think they got to be a little more young guy focused. So he'd probably be like the number 2 for Egg.
Oh no. We have one other tag feud, which is the 4-way tag that also is on Bad
Feud
Victoria.
is a generous terminology.
There is some things that do happen that build to it. September 28th Impact, Team 3D face Vaughn Doring and Brandon Tomaselli.
Of course.
Vaughn Doring is Joe Doring, of course. This is Team 3D's return to TNA since July. Quick squash, 3D on Doring. Bully does a promo after the match talking about how they're back and they want the NWA Tag Team titles. The Office said they could get the shot whenever they want, but Bully turned them down, saying, "We'll earn it. We'll work from the bottom to the way to the top." Devon hits his catchphrase.
Again, so Steiner stuff being the goal here. Feels like that's kind of where they're going with it, and then obviously that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So it's just some bullshit multi-man tag.
They're just thrown together with a bunch of other guys. October 5th Impact, Team 3D face Cat, or Shazarian, the old Shazarian, the new Cat.
Okay.
We decided that on the last episode. Do you not remember that?
No, that was 17 months ago.
We decided the Maverick Matt Kazarian combo are Cat.
Like, that's terrible.
You were the one that suggested Cat.
Why did you make this happen?
I will stick with Shazarian if you want.
No.
Cat
Doesn't
it
make
is.
sense either. Fucking Cat, I fucking guess it's fucking Cat.
Franchise and the Naturals are on commentary. Franchise does all the talking, as you wanted to expect.
They look like ass.
Mm.
They look like total shit.
You don't think this whole newly franchised Naturals thing is working out for them?
Oh god. Just like, can all three of them fuck off?
Soon enough, yes.
Thank god. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of them.
I think they're all done by January. I think franchise is done earlier and then the Naturals don't hang on much longer.
Thank god.
Tenay mentions that Cornette might also be looking to oust some tag teams because there's a story this month about how the roster's bloated and he needs to get people out of here. AMW watch on from the top of the ramp. The James Gang watch on from the top of the other ramp. Team 3D pin Cads with the 3D. 3D lock eyes with the James Gang and AEW. Bully grabs a microphone. Bully says they don't have a match at Bound for Glory, but whether it's AMW, the James Gang, or the Naturals, they challenge anybody and everybody.
And the TNA board of directors
They want to
said, everybody.
I thought that you said you were saying they wanted to fight the TNA board of directors,
I'd watch it.
and like Larry Z is already booked. So
I have a problem.
with this,
Yeah.
okay,
I already fucking hate Team 3D.
Hmm.
I'm already sick of them, and I already want them to be gone.
would you be more tolerant of them as heels?
Yeah, probably. But I'm just like, they're not even having good matches.
No,
They just suck.
they do.
And it's really annoying.
And then you have to see Bully Ray tweet about wrestling every day.
Well, like, that doesn't faze me. Like, I've always thought he was a dickhead, you know? Like, that doesn't mean anything. It's just like, it's the actual product on the show that I'm watching. All of their fucking promos suck ass. Their matches are boring. They look like shit. It was exciting when they were here for like the first 2 months, but like they're already firmly in like the fucking James Gang territory for me, where I'm like, just fuck off.
It has been like a bad first year.
It's been dreadful.
Because even the AMW matches weren't good.
They've had nothing. They've done nothing.
They had that one 6-man tag, or 8-man tag, whatever it was, at like Turning Point last year, the one with Jarrett and AMW against Rhino and 3D. That match was good, and one of the James Gang matches wasn't terrible, and the rest has been dog shit.
Yeah, when like your minimum wasn't terrible, you know.
They had one good match, one match that slightly exceeded expectations, and the rest has been pretty bad.
I'm thoroughly sick of them. I don't want to watch them anymore.
And as you said, the worst part is the characters, because they're doing the same, like, we're the best tag team, we're going to fight to be the best tag team, you have to prove you're a better tag team than we are, because we're the best tag team, and we have nothing else going on for us other than saying how good a tag team we are.
It's just, they're thoroughly annoying, man. I'm so over them. But perhaps something more interesting will happen eventually.
They are at least not a big part of the show right now. That is the solace. They're on TV for 5 minutes every 2 weeks.
5 minutes too damn much.
There's a show closing promo on the October 12th Impact, which is just Team 3D doing the same shtick. We also have the Styles and Daniels and James Gang against AMW and LAX match that we talked about that ends in the border toss on Gale, which does lead us into the pay-per-view. They replayed the border toss on Gale from Impact. JB has AMW. While AMW have a 4-way tonight, they can't look past what LAX did to Gale. They're not going to let them get away with this. Storm then has to make it racist and says they don't know how they let people like LAX live in his country, but they're going to be Border Patrol.
I mean, it's James Storm.
That's true.
The gimmick is he is an idiot.
He is an American idiot, some might say.
I wanna be an American idiot.
4-way tag team match. Team 3D defeat the Naturals, America's Most Wanted, and the James Gang.
Garrett, you have a lot to say about this match.
My favorite thing about this is you could tell they were jazzed to work in front of a real crowd because everyone wanted to do their shtick.
They always want to do their shtick, though. All they have is shtick.
Because, like, Franchise does a promo, James Gang do their shtick, Team 3D do their shtick, proving AMW, despite being in, like, their Auralist era, are still the best team in this match because they don't waste our time with shtick. Bully and BG do stereo punches together and then punch each other. Tower Doomspot where somehow nobody dies. Don says, think about all the Naturals versus AMW matches, and Don, I do. I think about them far too often.
They're in my nightmares.
Devon kicks out of the Natural disaster. 3D on Douglas for the win. After the match, Franchise chastises the Naturals. Slaps Chase.
The Naturals should beat the fuck out of him.
They should.
What are they still doing, taking anything from this fucking guy?
Oh, one of my favorite things this month is when the Franchise and the Naturals were on commentary on that match earlier this month. Franchise was giving out about how they aren't getting a title shot because they did win the gauntlet match at No Surrender. But
you were the one who fucking took it away from him.
Yeah, you gave up a title shot last month, you idiot. But yeah, that's this program. None of these teams matter, but AMW will be moving on to a feud with LAX.
I'm so done with them.
Tag team division does need some reinvention in this company.
Because they have great, you know. They have some great people.
They have a fucking killer tag team title match on this show.
Yeah, but like 2 of them are gonna like stop doing tag stuff soon.
Yep. Yeah, when you look at this division, you're like, at least the division has AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, AMW, and LAX. At least those 3 teams are good. Those 3 teams are definitely sticking around, right, Liam? That brings us over to the X Division, where we start with the X Division title match at Bound for Glory, which is Senshi versus Chris Sabin. Jim Cornette announces that at the press conference at one point. That will be our X Division title match at Bound for Glory off the back of the Jackass nonsense.
Jim Cornette fucks with Senshi.
He likes Senshi?
Do you think he likes him?
No.
Oh, they had a feud in ROH. I forgot.
Was it based around the fact that I don't like you?
Cornette did fire him.
Well,
it was the impetus of the Cornette homicide feud during the CZW ROH thing, where during Cage of Death, they're like, I need homicide. The only way ROH is going to beat these fucking monsters in this fucking Cage of Death is if we can get homicide on the team. And he had to, like, make... I forgot if it was 2 or 3, like, promises that he had to fulfill for Homicide in order to do it, and Homicide wouldn't tell him what they were until he won. Homicide comes in, gets one of the greatest reactions in wrestling history, wins the Cage of Death for ROH. Like, first thing he asks, he's like, I want my ROH title shot. Second thing he asks is he wants Steve Corino to be back in ROH so he can beat the fuck out of him. And then the third thing he asks is to reinstate Loki. And Cornette's like, fuck that. And then Adam Pearce attacks Homicide and they start with that feud.
I love Cornette's like, that's the bridge too far. You can have Steve Corino, you can have your title shot, you can't fucking have Loki.
Yeah, because I think, like, the thing was, like, Loki, like, beat the shit out of fucking Cornette. So Cornette fired him.
Cornette probably deserved it.
But one day, if we can, like, get it all combined, we should do the ROH CZW feud.
That'd be a good Patreon show.
Yeah. I'm sure it's pretty easy to all track down at this point. Actually, I think there's a fucking IVP video thing that documents it all.
Or like a comp tape?
Yeah.
On that same episode, Chris Sabin, Jay Lethal, and Sanjay Dutt defeated Alex Shelley, Johnny Devine, and Senshi.
Yeah, there was just a bunch of, like, 6-man tags for this build.
It was just stuff on TV. There's not real build to this, really. The crowd did chant "No more Jackass" at the start of this match. This is the match that had the Christian and Rhino stuff on commentary where they brawled. A large briefcase was thrown into the ring as the crowd booed. Devine swings and misses with it. Lethal hits a missile dropkick. Sabin pins him. The crowd booed this too.
They've turned the crowd on the X Division.
The entire concept of the X Division, the crowd has turned on. October 12th Impact, we have another 6-man tag. This is an 8-man tag. It's Chris Sabin, Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and Shark Boy defeating Senshi, Johnny Devine, Alex Shelley, and Petey Williams.
Sorry, I got distracted. What happened?
With 8-man tag, X Division.
Oh, yeah, keep talking. I'm going to go back to watching Tony Khan's stunner. Fucking, what's his name? Sean Spears.
Sure. Jerry Lynn, backstage, lectures the babyface team about their jackass antics. Sabin tells Old Man Lin to come to the ring and see what the X Division is all about. This is like the 7th segment on this show, and this is finally the first match. There was a bunch of stuff on the show before we finally got to a match, because this is Vince Russo television, baby. And the match does not matter. Jerry Lynn immediately appears at the ramp. Tenay mentions we will hear from Nash after the match, but we'll talk about that when we're talking about the Nash stuff. Tenay does dedicate this episode of Impact to Antonio Pena, who passed away during this month.
Goddamn.
Dutt drops Divine with a Poison Rana, which felt like novel in 2006.
Yeah, that was when that was still like crazy.
Like to actually see a Poison Rana on TV. Sabin pins Charlie with the La Magistral as Lynn applauds from the ramp. And
Antics proven right.
Jerry Lynn, old man, wrong. The October 19th Go Home show. JB is with Dutt and Lethal. They're playing video games and wearing a bald cap.
Warrior.
Sanjay wouldn't have to wear a bald cap for very long after this. They're doing Senshi training. Warrior. Lynn walks in. He's looking for Sabin. Lethal and Dutt do Senshi voices as they play Mortal Kombat. Watch my block. This is how I block, is how they say this. Is what they were saying about playing this video game.
I thought you were saying, how do I block?
Oh, that makes sense.
Which I'm like, walk back.
They are Mortal Kombat noobs.
But they're having a good time. That's why you should also buy Mortal Kombat.
Armageddon. Yes. Which I assume is very easy to buy in 2025.
Let me find out.
It might just be on the Xbox store. Sometimes it is. That doesn't feel like a game that's on Steam, though. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Senshi then had a match with Jay Lethal. Wins straight away at the Warriors' way. Doesn't matter. Senshi jumps Lethal after the match. Sabin makes the save. Senshi gets the better of him. Hits the Warriors' way, too. Doesn't matter.
Warrior.
They didn't do great Senshi impressions. He's a really easy guy to do an impression of, and they didn't do a great impression of him.
I found a ROM for it.
Well, yes. Oh, no, jail.
It might be in one of the collections, which you can get on Steam.
Warrior.
It is also $108 on Amazon.
Good God. Actually, how much is it to buy secondhand here?
But $54 on World of Books.
Ooh, why does World of Books have Mortal Kombat Armageddon?
I don't know, man. eBay, $40.
Alright, you can get it for €30 here on the PS2, or 12 if you want to buy it on the Wii.
I don't.
If you want to play it on the Wii, $12. You're paying nearly three times the price to pay it on PS2, Liam. You can play it on the Wii.
$75 on the Wii here.
Well, our Wii version is very common then.
Should buy it, then travel here and sell it for an up price.
Yes, that's how I will fund it. Yes. They do have one in stock in 2 different shops in Cork. I could buy 2 copies.
There you go. Get Senshi to sign it.
Illicit international Mortal Kombat Armageddon trading. Bound for Glory. We get an ad for Mortal Kombat that is just a video package of Senshi highlights spliced together with Mortal Kombat Armageddon highlights.
It's fucking awesome.
Maybe the coolest thing on this month's shows.
Yeah, by far.
And then X Division title is on the line as Chris Sabin defeats Senshi to win the title in his hometown of Detroit. Or well, he's from Hell, which is close to Detroit, I think. But
I know what you meant, but he's from Hell is just...
Chris Sabin is from Hell.
He is. Yes. Yes.
I did appreciate like a return era Chris Sabin starting to do a big lariat and calling it the clothesline from Hell, Michigan.
That is a good pun. He strikes me as a man who loves a good pun.
He does seem to. Sabin misses the TNA kick, and then Senshi hits a TNA kick in the most meta thing that could possibly happen in a TNA match. Senshi gets the heat. Sabin turns the tide with a missile dropkick. Senshi rolls through on a Frankensteiner into a double stomp for 2. Senshi kicks out of the cradle shock. Sabin gets his foot in the rope after Senshi hits the Warrior's way. Sabin reverses the Dragon Sleeper into a cradle to win the title. Lethal and Dutt celebrate as Lynn applauds too.
And, you know, frickin' Vince Russo proved me wrong.
Yeah, he booked a straight up X Division title match.
And I was like, this is gonna be some bullshit.
They got 13 minutes too, so it wasn't even that short.
I was incorrect.
And a pretty good match.
In my assumptions.
Crowd was like into it. Sabin, his hometown boy, winning the belt in Detroit.
In Hell.
They should have run a show in Hell. Just for Sabin. The other X Division thing was the return of Kevin Nash to the X Division.
Yes, of course. Thank God. He's returned to put over Chris Sabin, I assume.
He will finally do it. It will definitely happen. After that 8-man tag we were talking about, Nash appears on screen. Says the X Division has went to the crapper without him. There's then a hard cut where he then says the X Division being at an all-time low sickens him. Another hard cut where he says next week he will announce the details of the Bound for Glory Kevin Nash Open Invitational X Division Gauntlet Battle Royal for Bound for Glory.
It's a catchy name.
This was another one of those promos where I was like, For the love of God, he must not have talked for much longer than they aired, but they aired, like, cut it down to the very minimum they needed.
He was probably saying some absolute bullshit.
He probably was. But yes, it's an easy name that rolls off the tongue.
I have always said this.
Next week, we have Kevin Nash. He's in a bar hosting a press conference for the Kevin Nash Open Invitational X Division Gauntlet Battle Royal for Bound for Glory.
Mm-hmm.
This week, Dave was giving out in The Observer.
Oh, when is he freaking not?
But it was very funny. Like, he was giving out about the press conference on the first shows of these months, because he's like, when WWE does this, there's a bunch of fans there, and it seems like an event, so they look low rent when they do it like this. And then he used that same criticism again for this one.
The thing that was meant to be a joke.
The main thing that is meant to be a shitty press conference at the bar. He was like, oh, it looks so low rent them doing a shitty press conference. It's like, Dave, are you this stupid? Are you this stupid?
He just doesn't get it sometimes.
No. Nash says that Shelley will be in the match, but an old partner of his will be there too. Hall might be there. Monty Hall.
His old partner.
Nash says they're in hot negotiations with Bob Newhart. Shelley says Cecil Fielder, which completely breaks Nash. He's a baseball player that played for the Tigers. It must have been a very deep cut.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Zenk, Eric Watts,
Woo!
Carl Burnett,
Woo!
Foreigner, all the remaining live members of ABBA.
Okay.
Shelley is officially signed, but they're in negotiations with Hogan. If they can get him away from Crocodile Dundee 3, Paul Hogan will be there.
And from all his tax evasion.
He evades tax?
Oh, he does not step foot back in this country.
Really?
Let me tell you that.
I didn't know that about Paul Hogan.
He's off living on goddamn islands. If he's still alive. He was for a long time doing this. He was living in fucking some island because the minute he stepped back into Australia, he would be arrested for his copious amounts of tax evasion.
So do you not like him there? Or are you kind of like, hell yeah, evade our government?
I think he's kind of a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite remember, but I remember him being sort of a piece of shit.
I wish the crocodile ate him.
And then he sued them. But he did call the tax office the Taliban once.
Yeah.
That was kind of sick.
Okay.
But there's a lot of back and forth and tax evasion, yes.
Mm.
But also, when I say he's a piece of shit, he's an Australian man in his, 60s, so they all are.
They're all pieces of shit. You will be when you're in your 60s.
Yeah. No, I'm woke.
Mm-hmm. That takes us to Bound for Glory, where we do in fact have the Kevin Nash Open Invitational X Division Gauntlet Battle Royal for Bound for Glory.
Mm-hmm.
There are a bunch of vignettes this month telling us that Austin Starr is coming.
It'd be really embarrassing if he lost.
A star is born, a star is coming, Bound for Glory will be starstruck, etc., etc.
Lady Gaga is here.
So Nash was introduced first with his big-ass bowling trophy. The first man to walk through the tunnel for this big show in Detroit is Kevin Nash.
And he wins.
Kevin Nash wins?
Yep, he has the trophy. Austin
Starr is introduced as the first entrant. He is introduced from TV Land.
Where's TV Land?
It's in Arkansas, I think.
That's the least thing I expected to hear.
TNA runs down Austin Starr's influences. He includes Randy Savage, Jesse Ventura, Rick Rude, Cyndi Lauper. His role model is Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch.
This is just Kevin Nash doing bits.
That is literally this entire thing. It is Kevin Nash doing bits. Sanjay is out second. Duttonary screw up a Dragon Rana. Maverick Matt is out next, and he kind of looks like shit at this point.
Maverick Matt has put on some poundage.
He looks like a man who has given up on the idea of ever getting a push.
And he was right to.
Lethal is out next. Nash asks if Lethal has a cup on. Nash hopes Austin Starr does better than Glacier does after all the build-up he got. A1 is out next to his Iron Man theme. Zach Gowen makes his return.
Woo!
Don West has to explain to us that Zach Gowen has one leg in case anybody couldn't work that part out.
Also, crowd was most into Zach Gowen.
Yeah, because this is post WWE TV run, so at least he's a known.
I also
name
think he's
point.
a Detroit guy.
Oh, he might be. I think he is local. Yeah,
or at least he's vague area. I think
Nash and Don make a bunch of Johnny Ace jokes after they make he signed the wrong one-legged wrestler joke.
Mm-hmm.
Kazarian's out next as he and Matt throw out Dot. Sorelda enters. Kazarian immediately backhands her.
To a big babyface reaction.
Austin Starr low blows Sorelda and she sold it. And Mike Tenay is like, that shouldn't hurt.
Which is bullshit, alright? It's still getting kicked.
Yes, in a body part.
Regardless of everything, it is still getting fucking kicked.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we're acting like there's no feeling down there.
No, there's not. It's completely numb. Famously numb.
Yeah, famously.
A1 eliminates Zeralda. Shark Boy's out next. Shelly comes out to a good reaction in his hometown. Nape was like, I'm surprised Shelly's not out last. And Nash is like, the State Athletic Commission made sure I was on the up and up.
That's a good joke. They got one.
D-Ray 3000 is our next big surprise entrant.
Holy shit.
He and Shark Boy reunite. They do a bunch of throw rams. They throw up Matt Bentley.
The Shark Boy verse.
We do have Norman in the match later as well. We're only missing New Jack. If Nash got New Jack for this match, he'd be cool.
Yeah, if New Jack was here, it would be just to hear Kevin Nash talk about New Jack, to be honest.
And Nick Khan would have loved it.
Nick Khan, the fact that he is like a New Jack stan is hilarious.
Of all the people in the world that he could have asked for in the WWE game, he's like, get New Jack in there just for me.
That's awesome.
Johnny Devine was out next. Gowan was thrown out by Devine. No one made a how can he be eliminated because both feet can't touch the floor joke, which I was disappointed. Skipper's out next. Hits the buckshot lariat on Shelley.
He should have to be eliminated twice.
Yeah, it's a double elimination thing for him just to get him out there. Skipper hit a buckshot lariat. He crashed and burned on a rope walk deal as Austin Starr threw out Kazarian. Short sleeve Samson came out next. You were disappointed. You thought it was Puppet.
I also thought it was Stone Cold Steve Austin. It wasn't like a small guy thing. It was a bald thing.
Yeah, all bald men are the same. That's the reason Slick Johnson patted his head in an act of bald solidarity.
Oh, see, I thought that was the other way around.
You thought Samson patted Slick?
Yeah.
Okay, bald.
Because I only see bald.
You're bald blind. Shark Boy and D-Ray were eliminated off camera. Norman Smiley next wearing a Plymouth Whalers jersey. Smiley and Samson hit a double wiggle. Shelley throws out Samson. Slick taunts Samson, so Samson chased him. Slick gets in the ring as Petey's making his entrance as the last guy to a big reaction because he's a Windsor boy, which is right on the border with Detroit. Slick pushes out Norman and Skipper and then takes his shirt off. Petey throws him out. Petey hits a destroyer on Lethal and then he is thrown out by Shelley and Devine. Starr dumps out Devine and throws out Shelley on top of him. That leaves Starr and Lethal to do a short match that Starr wins with a brainbuster. Nash hands Starr the trophy and takes a liking to Austin Starr as Alex Shelley watches on jealously.
And also, like, that's when we learnt that, like, Aries and Lethal have never had a singles.
Which is crazy to me.
Like, just, like, being in the same company for multiple years in multiple companies.
In, like, the same division, in the same orbit, and multi-bands a lot, but never doing a singles together is mad.
It is crazy.
Yeah, Austin Starr off to a winning start. Start. With 2 R's.
A start.
A start is born.
Austin Starr if he were a pirate.
And this was mostly just to get people on the show, and for Nash to do a bunch of goofs on commentary.
Because they had Nash booked already, so they're like, well.
It's like, I guess the idea is, like, it's Detroit, which is where Nash is from. So in theory, he should be a draw, so the Kevin Nash Open Invitation X Division Gauntlet Battle Royal for Bound for Glory should be an attraction.
Hell's favorite demon, Chris Sabin.
No, that's Nikita Koloff.
No, he's Satan's nightmare.
Sorry, easy to mix up.
He should feud with Chris Sabin.
To take down the man from hell?
As he's Sabin's nightmare.
Oh. Alright, a couple of smaller loose ends to wrap up, starting with Eric.
One of them, why is it even here?
There is technically segments.
Yeah, but like, nothing happens.
There is technically segments. It must be covered. Everything must be color-coded.
I am equally as much criticizing the show.
Okay.
For the lack of anything happening with this.
October 5th Impact. JB is outside Jim Cornette's office. He's talking about all the stuff happening tonight as Jim Cornette is then shouting at a group of dorks. He's like, we've got Kurt Angle coming to TNA. We can't have you nerds around here anymore.
He's like, we're losing spots. One of you is going to feast. One of you will be fired. Except there'll be no feast.
And no fired in the end, but...
Spoilers. He says, we have to fire you to, like, make up room for other people. Which I'm like, how much is any of EY, Shark Boy, Norman Smiley, David Young, and Elix Skipper's contracts costing?
It's a one-in, one-out mentality, Liam.
Yeah, it's about roster numbers. Also, seems like a waste of potential to not have David Young lose this match.
He is disappearing forever, and he does not lose this match.
I guess it'd be too mean to shoot fire someone.
Even Norman Smiley is done shortly after this, and he also does not lose this match.
Yeah. But anyway, so they go on and they have this multi-man.
Mm-hmm.
Shark Boy wins. He feasts.
Mm-hmm.
by winning.
We all feast.
And Eric Young is fired by losing after Larry Zbyszko quickly runs in almost immediately and fucks over EY.
I had to write down a pitch there I need to make within TNA, which is bring back Feaster Fired, but it's Feastables or Fired.
Oh, that's a good crossover.
It's a good branding opportunity right there. But yes, Larry interferes immediately and screws EY, and EY's fired, and they hold on the shock of EY being fired for a little while.
It was, don't fire Eric, but now we have fired him.
He's gone. He's done.
Forever.
On the go-home show, JB is out by the limo that Kurt Angle got out of. EY approaches...
And he sees the Thing.
The Thing?
Because he's in a trench coat and a hat.
Yeah, he is disguised. JB tells him that EY will face Larry Zbyszko in a loser leaves TNA match at Bound for Glory. EY saw Joe, and Joe said there's not a man in TNA who can take the world title from him. On the pay-per-view, in the video package, there is a segment in which Jim Cornette informs Larry Zbyszko of this match too, which wasn't on TV. I wonder, was it like not on the TNA Plus version or something for some reason? But like, I was like,
maybe it was for the website.
Or maybe it was on Explosion. I don't know. But like, there was a segment on TV of Jim Cornette getting in the face of Larry Zbyszko, being like, I can book you in matches with a stipulation, and the stipulation is the loser will be fired. That does air in the package on the pay-per-view, and I didn't see it on TV. I have done a skim through the original broadcast versions of these episodes, and that segment did not air.
Yeah.
Whether they forgot to put it in the show, whether they cut it for time, whether it was on the website or was it on Explosion, I don't know, but it was not on Impact.
Okay.
But nonetheless, Eric Young is not fired. There is now a stipulation. It will be EY versus Larry Zbyszko, loser leaves TNA at Bound for Glory.
Is it technically like fire or rehire?
I guess it is, because Eric is fired, so he has to be brought back. Bound for Glory. JB has EY. He's breathing into a paper bag because he's scared that he'll lose his job. JB says he just needs some confidence. Larry Z comes in wearing his Ribera Steakhouse jacket, runs down EY, says you will never have confidence because you suck and you're shit and you're the worst.
How mean.
We then get the Matt Classic, that is Eric Young versus Larry Zbyszko in a loser leaves TNA or fire or rehire match, I guess. It is like 3 minutes long. It's still bad.
It's very sad. We're losing the man who invented the TNA kick.
Yeah. I think he's on the next Impact, so we don't do a Remember When until the next episode. But the next, you got to get ready for it. You got to get your brain in the right space for Larry Zbyszko Remember When. So we're nearly there.
So, Raven.
No. Keep it in your head. Don't say it out loud.
And I did like the fucking, it did like the controversy in Canada, and then like fucking Dusty buried him a bunch.
We can talk about that on the next episode. Larry works an abdominal stretch. Ref gets bumped. Larry pulls out some brass knucks. EY low blows him, takes the knucks, decks Larry with them, and wins. The match was like 3 minutes long. It was still very bad.
But I don't know. I'm sad, man. Larry's the best authority figure this company's ever had.
He was better than Jim Cornette. That segment where Jeff Hardy is in the rafters and he drops down from the ceiling and Larry's
hey,
like,
this ain't no Remember When.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, that segment's the best. I love that segment. Larry's like, what the hell, man? What are you doing? We gotta be professional around here.
He's off to go get inducted in the Hall of Fame in 10 years. The WWE one, I should specify.
He should be put in the TNA Hall of Fame too.
He should.
Had those two matches. No, Remember When. Next time.
He should have won Move of the Year.
For the TNA kick?
The TNA kick.
What won in 2003? Because I think that's when he did it.
2003 was in fact the Styles. Well, yeah, the Styles Clash.
Should have been the TNA kick.
And then Petey won 04 and 05 for the Canadian Destroyer.
Ruined wrestling forever.
The first time that a TNA wrestler did not win was the next 2 years.
I'm going to say CM Punk go to sleep.
It was Kenta go to sleep.
Damn. Oh, he didn't steal it yet, did he?
No. Wait, I guess the first... Okay, well, the first one was in 1981.
Really?
Yeah, that was the Superfly Splash.
Okay.
Then Super Destroyer won for the Superplex.
Cool.
I always love when, like, a guy wins the move again, because then Jimmy Snuka wins the Superfly Splash again, which is just very funny.
People are just like, it really is cool.
And he's like, the Suicide Dive from Tiger Mask 2. Then the Moonsault. Then Shooting Star Press. Yeah. What won last year? Oh, yeah. Hidden Blade.
Big Assassin's Creed fans in the Wrestling Observer universe.
3 years running. What move has won the most?
I'm gonna say it's the Styles Clash.
It's not.
I'm gonna say it's the Oz Cutter.
It is not. Styles Cutter's never won.
Good.
It is the One Wing Angel,
That's good.
which has won it 4 times.
It's a good move.
But if the Hidden Blade
What's the move of the year
wins
this
one
year?
more time in 2025,
Yeah.
Spanish Fly off the top of the cage.
That's pretty good.
Oh, maybe Styles Clash, but it's Will Ospreay.
That would be very funny. Actually, yeah, that should be it. We round things out with Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode, as you remember, he's been hunting.
It's just stupid bullshit.
He has been on the hunt for his manager. He announces at the end of the October 5 Impact that he has found his new manager and will announce next week.
His new manager is a floating pair of breasts.
Yes, the next week he gives all the losers a call. He gives Bobby Heenan, he gives Sherry, and he gives Colonel Robert Parker a call.
He also insinuates that he fucked Sherry.
He's had a nice time with Sherry.
And then she hung up on him.
He says that while the decision has been made, we have to wait till Bound for Glory to find out, as you said, a floating pair of breasts appears in frame.
And then we don't even find out because on the damn pre-show.
Yeah, Roode says he stares at the breast and says he made the right choice.
So stupid.
And on the pre-show, it is revealed that Tracy Brooks is Bobby Roode's new manager as he beats Lance Hoyt.
So fucking stupid.
There you go, Bobby Roode.
I want to end this on a high note.
I was going to make a very bad joke about the 2 O's in Rude are actually Tracy's breasts, and it's cinema.
It's so stupid.
It's a very dumb joke.
Alright, we're going to go. It's not a joke. We're going to quickly run through every most disgusting promotional tactic winner.
Okay.
And I want you to give me a rating out of 5 on how disgusting the promotional tactic actually is.
Okay.
1981, monster character, Tony Hernandez.
0. It's not even disgusting.
82, Bob Backlund as WWF champion.
1. Who cares?
83, Eddie Gilbert re-breaking his neck in an angle after having done so legitimately.
No, that's fucking good wrestling. You're a fucking mark. 1.
84, Blackjack Mulligan fake heart attack.
2.
85, usage of Mike Von Erich's near death to sell tickets.
5.
Let it be known that World Class has the next 4. 86, comparing Chris Adams' blindness angle with the death of Gino Hernandez.
Seems bad. We'll go 3.
Exploitation of the death of Mike Von Erich.
There seems to be a trend here. Also 5.
88, Fritz Von Erich's fake heart attack.
For fuck's sake. Also 5. The other fake
Should
heart
have been
attack is lower.
Should have been a damn real one.
But because of the death of the Von Erichs, that brings the heart attack angle higher than the other heart attack angle. It must be stated.
89, Jose Gonzalez's babyface push 1 year after Bruiser Brody stabbing.
2. Like, ultimately, who cares?
I mean, killed a guy and then fucking got a babyface push.
That's wrestling. We have murders
That's
everywhere.
insane. That's a fucking 5. What are you talking about? 1990, Atsushi Onita stabbing Jose Gonzalez 2 years after the Bruiser Brody stabbing case.
Well, you can't have both of them being most disgusting promotional tactic.
Yes, you can.
One of them is earned.
They're both 5s. 91, exploiting the Persian Gulf War, Sergeant Slaughter Iraqi sympathizer angle.
That's like a 2.
92, pushing Eric Watts.
That's my favorite thing about this award. It is like exploiting the death of a man in a vile and cruel way. Eric Watts had wrestling matches. Those are the 2 things.
93, Cactus Jack gets amnesia.
1. Who cares?
Did nothing happen in these years? 94, Ric Flair retirement angle.
I don't even remember what it was, but 1.
Gene Okerlund's 900 hotline advertisements.
What the fuck? I guess they are exploitative a little bit, too.
The next 2 are very funny back to back. Just because of how, like, insane what it is. The next 3, Fake Diesel and Razor Ramon.
Who cares? 1.
97, Melanie Pillman interview on Raw the day after Brian Pillman's death.
5.
98, exploiting Scott Hall's alcoholism.
Pretty high. 5.
99, Over the Edge pay-per-view continuing after the death of Owen Hart.
There should be a new category for the worst thing a wrestling promoter has ever done, and that might be it.
2000, David Arquette winning the WCW World title.
That's like a 2.
2001, Stephanie McMahon comparing her father's indictment to the September 11 attacks.
That's funny. No, that's a 1. That's too funny.
2002, Triple H accusing Kane of murder and necrophilia.
Oh, 2.
2003, McMahon's all over the product.
That's been the case for like 8 years at that point.
I don't. Yeah, it's like, why is that a new one? 04 Caden Leader pregnancy wedding miscarriage angle.
3.
2005 not editing out a terrorist angle. Muhammad Hassan attacking the Undertaker for air on day of London bombings.
Like 3 or 4.
2006 exploitation of the death of Eddie Guerrero.
4.
In 2007 we have the first TNA name.
Oh no.
The signing of Adam Pac-Man Jones and having him make it rain on television when his doing so in a strip club led to the paralysis of a wrestler.
3.
Wow. 2008, teasing a Jeff Hardy drug overdose to garner late interest in a pay-per-view show.
Not great. Also a 3.
2009, Mickey James' Piggy James angle making fun of her weight.
2. It's mean and cruel, but not like evil.
2010, Stand Up for WWE campaign, launched in conjunction with Linda McMahon's US Senate run.
2 as well, but yeah.
It's also just too funny. 2011, promoting an anti-bullying campaign despite blatant mistreatment of Jim Ross.
3.
2012, CM Punk and Paul Heyman exploiting Jerry Lawler's real-life heart attack, playing footage of him near death.
Yeah, it's wrestling. 1.
0, it's based.
Yeah.
2013, exploitation of the death of Bill Moody.
2.
He's a cardy ass bitch. He would have been like, hell yeah. 2014, insulting fans who purchase pay-per-views.
They're fucking marks. 1.
Yeah, 0, should always insult them. 2015, using Reed Flair's death in an angle.
3.
2016 was an MMA one.
Ooh.
Kimbo versus Data 5000 fight.
Oh, well, yeah, I remember that.
And then the next 8 years are all WWE. 2017, promoting Jimmy Snuka as a hero in death not long after his trial over the death of Nancy.
4.
2018-2019, relationship with Saudi Arabia.
5.
2020-2021, firing people during a global pandemic while setting profit records.
5.
2022, Vince McMahon appearing on television for a crowd pop after sexual misconduct allegations come out.
Again, in the Owen Hart tier of needs its own category, off the scale.
2023, WWE enabling Vince McMahon and him being back in power and TKO keeping him in a position of power.
Yeah, 6.
2024, continued relationship with Saudi Arabia.
They've been doing it for years. Come up with a new one.
Let it be known that, like, the number 3 on that was fucking playing the CM Punk Jack Perry footage.
They're the worst thing you could ever do. So TNA's only ever won that once?
Yeah, Tina only has one. The Pac-Man Jones.
Upstanding promotional tactics from Total Nonstop Action Wrestling.
It's true. They've probably been nominated a bunch. But, like, what is the worst thing that TNA did as an angle?
I was thinking, like, balk on giving Jesse Sorensen a real job.
Yeah.
Is up there. Like, he broke his neck in your ring and was paralyzed, and then you said you'd give him a job for life, and then you didn't. So,
yeah.
That's up there. Jeff Hardy Sting.
Yeah, but, like, that wasn't, like, a promotional tactic, I guess.
It was a pay-per-view main event.
Yeah, they should have just not booked it.
Well, they shouldn't have let Jeff Hardy go out there. They knew. And they shouldn't have let Jeff Hardy go out
What year was that?
2011.
Was it worse than the promoting an anti-bullying campaign despite the blatant mistreatment of Jim Ross?
It probably was, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably it. I mean, like, and also, like, the Kurt backlash, maybe? In 06.
Yeah, hiring Kurt despite his medical woes. And personal woes.
And maybe, like, some of, like, the Kurt, Jarrett, Karen stuff later on.
Turning that messiness into, like, an angle.
Yeah. Because that's, like, really what that should be about, is, like, things that are actually, like, you know, angles and things that, like, terrible things that we use to, like, benefit the company.
Instead of, like, a monster was on TV.
Well, that was 1981. That shit was crazy. That's the craziest shit I'd ever seen. What is your most disgusting promotional tactic?
What's the most disgusting promotional tactic we could use to promote this podcast?
I'm gonna kill Garrett.
All right, we'll bank up. This will be our plan. We'll bank up like 20 or 30 episodes of the main show, right? And then you will kill me in a way that makes me seem all like valiant and a hero, but you will have actually murdered me. And then you'll be like, listen to all this posthumous content of this hero. It's such a good thing that we had all this stuff recorded so that I can profit off of his death.
He died making Ireland the 51st state.
God damn it. That is the Bound for Glory 2006 episode of You've Got to Be Kidding Me. We'll be back on Patreon with more Rain Takers and Gifts to the Pods in the next few weeks. And after that, with the Genesis 2006 episode, You can follow us on Twitter at TNA History Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett and Liam at the Gleet Muda. Subscribe to us on YouTube at You've Got to Be Kidding. You're on TikTok at TNA History. Check out our merch at the description link below. Buy t-shirts, buy posters, buy everything. Subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/kiddingme or tnachat.com. Thanks for listening, and bye-bye.
Do damn thing.